Chapter 157. The gigantic wild boar continued to wreak havoc in the city, destroying a large number of buildings. Erica jumped onto a building, and with a flash of light, a set of movement-like clothes replaced the red evening dress Erica wore before. Steel Lion and Lionheart King, please listen to the oath of Knight Erica Brantley. With the recitation of the spell, a magic formation appeared beside Erica, and a steel lion head emerged from the magic formation. The steel lion head opened its big mouth, and Erica thrust her hand into the steel lion head. Then, Erica jerked, and an exquisite rapier appeared in her hand. It's time for the duel, Lionheart, Coeur de Lion. Erica pointed the Lionheart in her hand at the gigantic wild boar, and the energy on the Lionheart skyrocketed, turning into a red lightning bolt and rushing toward the gigantic wild boar. The red lightning bolt hit the gigantic wild boar, and the energy radiated from the gigantic wild boar resisted Erica's attack. Bang! As if it had hit an insurmountable wall, there was a loud bang. Sure enough, it's a divine beast, Erica said as if she knew the result. Despite this, Erica continued to release energy to attack the gigantic wild boar. The gigantic wild boar, as if enraged by the continuous attack, slammed toward Erica. Erica struggled to hold her sword, and was slowly repelled by the impact of the gigantic wild boar. Finally, Erica retreated to the edge of the house. As if enraged by this little bug that could resist its attack, the gigantic wild boar suddenly slammed upward. The house Erica was in was instantly shattered, and Erica fell to the ground. At this moment, Wyrm rushed over and hugged Erica. Wyrm landed on the ground with ease. It's better to leave this kind of thing to a man, Wyrm said with a smile. Erica stared blankly at Wyrm, obviously unable to react. Wyrm put down Erica, and then rushed toward the gigantic wild boar. Wait! That's a divine beast, which ordinary magicians can't deal with. As soon as Erica finished speaking, she saw a scene that she couldn't believe. Wyrm jumped towards the giant wild boar and punched it. Boom! The giant wild boar was sent flying upwards. Erica looked at Wyrm in a daze, as if she were looking at a human-shaped dragon. It seemed that Erica was right, rumble. The giant wild boar landed exactly where the giant wild boar was originally standing. It was as if the giant wild boar had jumped up and landed on its head. Wyrm clenched his fists in excitement. His ruby-like eyes were filled with an unruly expression. Sure enough, the me who has grown is no longer the same as before, Wyrm said as he clenched his uninjured right hand. Wyrm's red eyes burned like boiling blood. Perhaps it was because of Wyrm's dragonization, but Wyrm's eyes had turned red a long time ago. Suddenly, a hurricane swept up from under the giant wild boar, and it was instantly torn apart. It doesn't seem to be an ordinary hurricane. Wyrm sensed the surging magic power in the hurricane that was increasing. It increased by about the same amount as the giant wild boar that Wyrm had just knocked down. Just as Wyrm was about to attack, the hurricane instantly dissipated. Wyrm saw a purple-haired figure in the ruins again. Is it that young man from earlier? Wyrm took a closer look. As expected, his senses were right. He must have something to do with this. The purple-haired young man smiled at Wyrm again, but this time, it was a smile filled with fighting spirit. Then, he turned into a gust of wind and left. Wyrm didn't try to chase after him. Instead, he jumped back to Erica's side. So then, Miss Erica, can you tell me more about this world? Wyrm asked with a smile. Erica didn't seem to react to it yet. She nodded blankly. Erica and Wyrm sat on the seats of a certain train station. Due to the evacuation, the station was empty for the time being. After Erica returned to her senses, she immediately asked Wyrm, why can you knock down a divine beast with a single punch? Are you a powerful magician from a mysterious place? Or are you a demon king? Facing a series of questions from Erica, Wyrm expressed that he didn't know what she was talking about. Why don't you tell me what that thing was first, Wyrm said. Huh? You don't know what that thing is? Erica said in surprise. Facing Erica's strange look, Wyrm quickly said, just think of me as a reclusive magician who doesn't know anything about the world. I don't think an ordinary magician can knock down a divine beast with a single punch. Erica muttered. Although Erica was very suspicious of Wyrm's origin, she still explained the series of questions about the mythological beasts just now to Wyrm. Before human history, there were many powerful gods in the world, and these existences had no names. After the birth of human beings, these gods, while bestowing human beings with gifts, also persecuted human beings. People were afraid of these gods, so they made up myths and gave these gods names. The gods with names were bound by the myths that people had made up and gradually entered the myths. They became the gods of the myths that steadily carried out their duties. However, there were also some gods who were unwilling to perform their duties. They appeared in the world and became the god of disobedience who disobeyed their own myths. For the damage caused by the god of disobedience, ordinary people who didn't know magic would only be told that it was a natural disaster. Wyrm also knew something about the god of disobedience, which was almost similar to the disobedient heroic spirit appearing in the world. Because the heroic spirit had restraining power, this kind of situation would not happen. And the gods in this world, although bound by the myths made by human beings, could still come to the world. Erica then told Wyrm why they should fight against the god of disobedience. Different god of disobedience had different dangers. For example, the appearance of Poseidon would cause tsunamis, the appearance of the sun god would burn the earth, and the appearance of the god of war would cause wars. After learning that the appearance of the gods would cause various problems, Wyrm had a clue about the problems caused by his arrival in this world. Am I judged as the god of disobedience by this world? Later, Wyrm asked, so, how did human beings survive? That's right, since the gods frequently appeared as the god of disobedience, how did human beings survive? Erica looked at Wyrm with a more surprised look, as if she was asking if he was from this world. However, since Wyrm was her savior, Erica continued to educate Wyrm. Human beings were a kind of existence that could cause miracles. In this world, there were currently 6 gods who killed the god of disobedience for various reasons. They were called Campoin, that is, the god slayers. The god slayers killed the god of disobedience and obtained the divine power of the god of disobedience killed, that is, authority. The god slayers who killed the god of disobedience who harmed human beings were also called Demon King, because of various problems. The god slayers sheltered human beings, destroyed the god of disobedience, and accepted the service of human beings. And just now, the giant wild boar and the hurricane that destroyed the wild boar were the incarnations of a certain god. After more or less understanding the background of this world, Wyrm couldn't help but think of the purple-haired youth from before. Clearly, the other party was a god of disobedience. And at this moment, the world began to change color. Chapter 158. The sky was instantly filled with dark clouds, and the ground was filled with smoke. It began to rain like a storm. Thump, thump, thump. The ground shook. It was the sound of a giant creature moving step by step. Wyrm and Erica looked toward the source of the sound. In the distance, the figure of a giant appeared. The giant's body was several hundred meters tall, and part of the giant's body was covered in a grayish-black ancient armor. The exposed skin and muscles were knotted together, making it seem particularly powerful. The giant's long white beard blocked the giant's nose and mouth, and its 2 white eyes, which seemed to have no sense of reason, hung in the sky like 2 huge copper bells. That's... Erica exploded. She used magic to change into battle clothes and ran toward the giant. Wyrm shook his head helplessly and followed. Stay a moment, God, cried Erica from behind the giant. Hearing someone calling him, the giant stopped and turned his head to look at the human who had stopped him. Human, how dare you stand in the path of a god? How bold of you, the giant questioned Erica with a thunderous voice. God, you must be the king of Sardinia, Mekhl, who is worshipped by the Phoenicians, Erica said. Mekhl was surprised. He said happily, yes, I am Mekhl. I didn't expect someone to remember my name. How surprising. King Mekhl, please stop, or Sardinia will be destroyed. Erica continued to persuade him. Human, you know my name, but that doesn't mean you can stop me. Since you know my name, I won't hold you accountable. Then, a bolt of lightning struck Mekl. Boom! A pair of goat eyes vaguely appeared in the cloudy sky, looking at Mekl. Mekl blocked the lightning with his arm. Seems like I have to speed up. With that, Mekl left. Just as Erica was about to chase after him, a hand pressed down on her shoulder. Okay, didn't I tell you? Leave this to us men. Erica turned around, only to see Wu Ming's ruby eyes. In short, leave everything to me. After saying that, Wu Ming walked in the direction that Mekl had left. If it's him, maybe. Erica thought. Erica shook her head and ran in the direction Mekl had left. The storm continued to fall, lightning flashed around, and thunder rumbled. Wu Ming ran in the direction where Mirka left and soon saw Mirka stop. In front of Mekl, the purple-haired youth that Wu Ming had met twice before was floating in front of him. You're willing to fight me even though you haven't gathered all your avatars. That's a good fight, Welslana, Mekl said. The purple-haired youth, Welslana, smiled faintly and said, I am the undefeated war god, an existence that seeks only one defeat. And now, there are not only two gods like us, King Mekl. It seems that I'm blind. I didn't expect another one of my kind to hide like a human. Mekl immediately turned to look at Wu Ming. I'm sorry, I'm not a god. I'm just a traveler who has been to many places, Wu Ming replied calmly. At this moment, Wu Ming already knew why Mekl thought that he was one of their kind, the god of disobedience. Wu Ming's origin dragon bloodline had been strengthened. As a origin dragon that could freely travel through all worlds, it could be said that every time Wu Ming went to a world, the world would give him a new identity. In addition, Wu Ming had a relationship with King Arthur, the Hero King, and others. Therefore, Wu Ming was automatically judged as a mythical existence by this world, the god of disobedience. Now, Wu Ming was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, completely disrupting the development and change of this world. I wonder if there are any legends about me in this world, Wu Ming thought. You don't have to be humble, my fellow. However, although you're also a god, you can't interfere with my battle with Welslana, Mekl said. I don't have any objections. I'm only after failure. Even if it's 1 against 2, I'm confident, Welslana said arrogantly. You dare to say that, army god? Mekl mocked. Don't bother. Wu Ming said, both of you, just go ahead. As soon as he said that, Mekl and Welslana's expressions changed. Even if you're one of our kind, you can't say that. You're really arrogant, unknown god. Mekl and Welslana were a little angry, but Wu Ming was indeed confident. One had to know that Wu Ming had a relic that could deal with gods. Xiao En, can I do it now? Wu Ming asked in his heart. No problem, Master Wu Ming. Enkidu's gentle voice was heard. That was right. Ever since Wu Ming came to this world, Wu Ming realized that Enkidu had awakened. It seemed that because Wu Ming was absorbing power from his roots, Enkidu had also benefited from it. At that moment, Enkidu had completely broken free from the chains that connected heaven and earth and had become Wu Ming's exclusive relic. It was bound to Wu Ming's soul. Then, let's begin, Mekl. Welslana. In an instant, a large number of golden ripples appeared behind Wu Ming, and within the golden ripples, a few golden chains appeared. The chains rushed towards Mekl and Welslana. As Mekl's body was not agile and he was careless, he was instantly bound by the golden chains. Welslana felt that something was wrong and quickly used one of his clones, the phoenix, to escape. It's just a chain. Let's see if I can break free from it. Mekl roared. However, no matter how hard Mekl tried, he could not break free from the chains that bound him. Could it be a relic? Welslana looked at the golden chains that were getting tighter and tighter, and said in shock. Take a guess. Wu Ming smiled. In an instant, Wu Ming's body shot towards Welslana. Welslana did not retreat and faced Wuming head-on. Humph. I'll be happy if you have a relic. It seems like I have a chance to taste defeat. Welslana wanted to taste defeat, but it was not a meaningless defeat. He wanted to fully enjoy the battle before he lost. Come on then, Welslana. Chapter 159. Wuming and Welslana each stretched out a hand and swung it at each other. Boom! The collision between the fists impacted the surrounding atmosphere, sending out a shockwave, accompanied by a loud noise. After a short separation, Welslana said, "You're really powerful. My bull told me that you have such extraordinary power. Is that so?" "I have more than that." Wuming stretched out his hand, and in an instant, a giant black hole appeared in front of Welslana, and even the ground began to be sucked up by the black hole. Magic strength black hole. What? Welslana was sucked in by the black hole, but Welslana immediately activated his Phoenix mode and escaped from the black hole's suction. Magic strength black dragon thunder. In an instant, a black dragon-shaped lightning rushed toward Welslana. Don't underestimate me. Welslana exited his Phoenix mode and used his goat mode. In an instant, a large amount of lightning collided with Wuming's black lightning. Boom! The lightning exploded, and it made a deafening roar. Taking advantage of the collision between the two sides, Wuming raised his hand again. Magic strength, cardiac mastery. An invisible force spread to Welslana's body. Welslana spat out a mouthful of blood, and then the injury on his body instantly healed. That was the effect of his goat mode. The advanced spells Silent Ming used were all learned from the Nameless Spellbook. They were all instant death spells, and they were strengthened by the strengthening spells he learned from the Nameless Spellbook to increase their power. At this time, Meckel's voice came. Even if I'm bound, you can't underestimate me. Unforgivable. Meckel's body was covered with Enkidu, but even so, Meckel still had brute force. He used his body to hit Wuming. Flash! Wuming's figure instantly moved to the other side of Meckel. Before he could stabilize his body, Wuming suddenly turned his body to the side. A golden sword swept past Wuming's side, and it cut through Wuming's side waist, taking away a trace of flesh and blood from Wuming. This is a golden sword that can cut the godhead. Wuming covered his abdomen and frowned. Welslana looked at Wuming with the golden sword in his hand. For Wuming, who was known as the god of disobedience, it could be said to have high-level divinity. And that golden sword had the power to cut the godhead. In other words, Wuming was now naked in Welslana's eyes. That's right, unknown god, this is my trump card. But Wuming sneered at Welslana's words, and then said, but as far as I know, Welslana, the god of war, must know the opponent's ability to use this sword. For those who don't know my real name, this sword can only be used as a weapon that ignores defense. Ha 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 ha. Isn't that a matter of course? Hiding one's name is also a means, it's great. An unknown god. Can you defeat me? Welslana began to shout excitedly. Then, as you wish. A pair of dragon horns appeared on Wuming's head, and Kalas said, Master, the analysis is complete. Well, look carefully, Welslana, this is your power. Create green item, advanced item creation. As the spell was recited, a golden sword appeared in Wuming's hand. This is... How is this possible? Welslana was in disbelief. That's right, Welslana, this is your golden sword that cut the godhead. Kalas, who had a wealth of knowledge, after knowing the real names of Meckel and Welslana, she began to infuse the knowledge of those two into Wuming's mind. After all, only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win 100 battles. Originally, Wuming, who didn't have the feeling, couldn't create the golden sword with create great item. However, Welslana used the golden sword to cut Wuming, and Wuming perceived the structure of this weapon. As the masterpiece of the Gemstone Master, Kalas was a completely support-type magic attire, and had even turned into a silent noble artifact. It was completely possible to analyze the ability of the golden sword of Welslana. With all the buffs, and with the knowledge of this sword in Wuming's mind, Wuming successfully created Wellerslana's golden sword that cut the godhead. It's useless. Even if you created my sword, it's still a fake. Wellerslana said. Is that so? Then give it a try, Wellerslana. Wuming waved his hand forward, and several similar golden swords appeared beside Wuming. Wellerslana, as the undefeated god of war, you have 10 incarnations: strong wind, bull, white horse, camel, wild boar, youth, phoenix, ram, goat, and human warrior with a golden sword. The golden sword began to split, and more golden swords appeared. Legend has it that Wellerslana is also the guardian of the god of light, Mitra. Mitra is the incarnation of the sun, so Wellerslana is also related to the sun. Your name is Wellerslana, and you are also the god of conquest who is closely related to Hercules. Soon, a large number of golden swords appeared around Wellerslana, and the entire sky turned into a golden sword territory. At this moment, Wellerslana was trapped in the golden sword territory and could not escape. In West Asia, you are known as the guardian of light, and you have the same origin as Indra, the Thunder Emperor of India. You once appeared in Avesta as an eagle and were described as the symbol of royalty. Wellerslana is not only the god of victory, but also the guardian of royalty and the people. Therefore, the golden swords were all pointed at Wellerslana. Wellerslana is only your Greek name, and your real name is Bahram. Therefore, the golden swords stabbed at Wellerslana. Puchi, Wellerslana was pierced by a large number of golden swords, but he was still smiling. Is this the feeling of being defeated? It's not bad. Wellerslana smiled. I will come for you next time. You can't be defeated by others before I am resurrected, unknown god. Wellerslana disappeared with a satisfied expression. All the golden swords shattered, and the golden sword territory disappeared, turning into the storm again. Wuming looked at Mekl, who was standing at the side. This is unbelievable, Mekl said. This is my mistake. I didn't expect you to have a relic that can defeat gods. My kind, give me the price of my failure. Wuming summoned the golden sword again, but this time, it was much bigger than before. As you wish. Pfft. Mekl disappeared in the sky, and the storm stopped raging. The sun reappeared in the sky, and the sunlight shone on the land that was full of destruction. Erica stood in the ruins, looking at Wuming, who was standing under the sun in disbelief. The seventh god slayer is born. Chapter 160. A week had passed since Wuming had killed Wellerslana and Mekl. Wuming sat cross-legged in a luxurious Western-style room with his eyes closed. Wuming, who had killed the two gods, naturally obtained 2 authorities. However, these 2 authorities were of little value to Wuming. Therefore, Wuming used his talent ability, the Noble Phantasm, and successfully merged the 2 authorities into one. Wuming was checking the authority that had become his Noble Phantasm. In Wuming's spiritual world, a huge stone slab was embedded in it. The huge stone slab was embedded with 12 small stone slabs. Like a clock, they were evenly distributed in 12 positions. It was just like a clock. In the middle of the 12 small stone slabs, there were 2 stone pillars, one long and one short. They were like the hour and minute hands on a clock. Dragon seed, giant, warrior, storm, annihilation, flood, vitality, kin, thunder god, phoenix, sun, magician. This was what Wuming's authority looked like after he had obtained Wellerslana and Mekl's authority. Each stone slab was engraved with different scenes, and the position of each stone slab corresponded to each scale on the clock. At that moment, the hour and minute hands were pointing at the small stone slab at 12:00 The stone slab at 12:00 had a magician in a long robe engraved on it. Following Wuming's consciousness, the stone slab that was pointed at there started to glow. In the outside world, Wuming opened his eyes and casually stretched out his hand. A ball of flame appeared in Wuming's hand. As his consciousness changed, the flame in Wuming's hand turned into many things. First, it turned into a stream of water, then it turned into a ball of lightning, and then it turned into a purple mist. Wyrm cast Yggdrasil's spells one after another, casting them freely. Wyrm clenched his hand, and the purple mist disappeared. It seems that magician has increased my casting speed, Wyrm said. Then, on the stone plate in Wyrm's heart, the short stone pillar turned to the 7 o'clock direction, and the stone plate also lit up. There was a human body engraved on this stone plate, and a large amount of energy filled this person. In an instant, Wyrm felt a surge of vitality gushing out of his body. Wyrm's mana, spirit, stamina, life force, and all his other attributes had been boosted. At this moment, Wyrm felt like he wouldn't die even if his heart was dug out. Is this vitality? This feeling is really good. Wyrm clenched his fist tightly and said excitedly. Each stone plate represented an ability and a form. However, because Wyrm's previous authority was of little value to him, Wyrm had upgraded it to a noble artifact. For example, the original form of the giant, the bull, only increased its strength unilaterally. For example, the original form of the dragon, the camel, increased its leg strength and physical toughness. Moreover, all the previous authority required an extremely strange method to activate. The bull required the other party to be strong, the camel needed to be seriously injured, and even the most lethal son, the original form of the white horse, required the other party to be a sinner. Moreover, each authority could only be used once a day. Mekkel's authority aside, Wellislana's authority was undoubtedly of little value. After Wellislana's authority and Mekkel's authority merged and upgraded into Wyrm's own noble artifact, Wyrm completely mastered the authority that was upgraded into a noble artifact. There were no harsh conditions to use it, no useless abilities, and no restrictions to use it. It could be said that any one of the authority could be considered a separate authority. The only flaw was that Wyrm couldn't use 3 or more authority at the same time. There were only 2 needles in the stone plate, and he couldn't point to 3 stone plates at the same time. Although Wyrm was a little troubled, the authority relic seemed to be set up according to his current body's performance and characteristics. Wyrm accepted his fate. At the very least, these 12 authorizations were useful. At that moment, a voice came from outside the door. "King, may I come in?" "Come in," Wyrm said. Then, Wyrm's door opened, and Erica walked in wearing a gorgeous princess dress. Erica then walked to Wyrm and knelt on one knee before Wyrm and said, "King, lunch is ready. Please eat." Wyrm looked at the beautiful girl who called him king when they just met and recalled what happened yesterday. After Wyrm killed Wellislana and Mekkel, the storm stopped. As Wyrm had already cast a large-scale idler dispersal spell when he came to Wellislana and Mekkel, there were no casualties in the battle between Wyrm, Wellislana, and Mekkel. As for the destroyed land and buildings, Silent Wonder used magic tools to repair them. Wyrm still remembered Erica's shocked expression when she saw Wyrm take out all kinds of things from the golden ripples behind him. After everything was settled, Erica invited Wyrm to the luxurious villa in a very respectful manner. Wyrm knew that he had killed the god of disobedience and become a Campoin. This news would definitely be known by others, so Wyrm didn't hide it. Wyrm couldn't make up his mind about Erica at first. After all, when Wyrm, Wellislana, and Mekkel fought, Erica hid and watched the whole process. Erica still knew that Wyrm was the god of disobedience. Wyrm wasn't sure if Erica regarded him as the god of disobedience or the god slayer, but based on Erica's current behavior towards him, it should be the latter. Wyrm said to Erica at that time, "I am the god of disobedience, and there will be disasters if you follow me. Even so, you still want to worship me as your king?" Erica, on the other hand, knelt on one knee, looked up at Wyrm with a smile, and said, "I discovered that someone set up a trap to disperse the idlers. I believe in my judgment. A demon king who thinks for the people is worthy of my service." Later, Wyrm followed Erica's arrangement and came to a villa in Sardinia where Erica belonged. Erica was summoned by her superior organization. Until the next day, Wyrm didn't see Erica until he got up and had breakfast. Until lunch, that is, now. "What did the other magicians say?" Wyrm asked suddenly. Erica's body trembled, and then she looked at Wyrm. Everyone confirmed the birth of the seventh god slayer through other god slayers, and they unanimously decided to worship you as their king. Erica said. That's right, Erica has been missing for so long because she received a message from her superior organization, Black Cross, and was recalled to the headquarters. Looking at Erica, who was a little nervous, Wyrm said, let's eat first. Yes. Chapter 161. Wyrm followed Erica to the mansion's dining room. After a simple lunch, Erica said to Wyrm, Your Majesty, there's something I need to trouble you with. Looking at Erica kneeling on one knee and lowering her head, Wyrm walked to Erica and held her shoulder. I don't need to bow and scrape, and there's no need to call me Your Majesty, just call me Wyrm. Yes, Lord Wyrm. As a king, Wyrm's words were irrefutable. Erica accepted Wyrm's order. Wyrm looked at Erica and continued to ask, So, what's the matter, Erica? Erica stood up and said to Wyrm, Here's the thing, the general of the magic organization I belong to, Red Copper Black Cross, wants to meet you with the higher-ups. Wyrm immediately said impatiently, If it's the general, it's okay, but the others don't. Huh? Erica didn't expect Wyrm to refuse so quickly. I know the general of Red Copper Black Cross. That's your uncle, Paul Brantley, right? I've seen his deeds from the information you provided. Wyrm was not idle these days. He asked Erica to provide him with the information about European magic. Erica naturally found a lot of information and put it all in the study room, and all the information was recorded by Collis. Then Wyrm continued. Forget about the others, it's nothing more than seeing my power. This kind of thing is fine, even if you don't recognize me, it doesn't matter. Wyrm said casually. Your Majesty, please think twice, if they don't see you, they won't feel at ease. Erica said. Looking at Erica, who knelt on one knee again, Wyrm stroked his forehead helplessly. All right, I got it. Let's just meet. Also, didn't I say that you can just call me by my name? Yes, Wyrm, Sama. Later, Wyrm followed Erica to a sparsely populated place in Sardinia. Then, a few figures walked out. The leader of the group was an uncle full of youthful vitality. His upright face and intellectual temperament made Wyrm take a second look at him. Nice to meet you, King of Disobedience, I'm Paul Brantley, the General of Red Copper Black Cross. Paul bowed and said respectfully. Hello, Mr. Paul, since you call me King of Disobedience, you must know my identity. Wyrm said casually with his hands in his trousers pockets. Of course, Your Majesty, please don't blame Erica, this has nothing to do with Erica. This is because the Magic Association detected 3 types of divine power when we examined the battlefield between you and Welslana and Meckel. Based on Erica's partial report, we determined that you are a disobedient person. Paul said. Wyrm thought about it, when he was judged as the god of disobedience by this world, the magic power he produced would also be judged by this world and transformed into the divine power of this god of disobedience. Therefore, in such a fierce battle, there were only 3 types of divine power left at the scene, and the European Magic Association judged Wyrm as the god of disobedience. Then do you trust me so much, aren't you afraid that I will kill all of you? Instantly, Wyrm showed a dangerous expression. The figures behind Paul took 2 steps back in panic. But Paul and Erica were calm. I heard from Erica that before you fought with Welslana and Meckel, you had set up a dispersal system. I believe that such a god is worthy of our support. Paul looked at Wyrm's eyes, and his eyes were quite firm. Just like that, no one said anything, and the atmosphere gradually became anxious. Suddenly, Wyrm smiled. Ha ha ha, as expected of the highest knight with the title of Diable Rouge. Wyrm said. I've already returned that title to Red Copper Black Cross because of my role as the Commander-in-Chief. Now, the title of Diable Rouge is held by Erica. Paul said. Erica is a very good knight. Although she is not strong enough, her courage to face the god of disobedience for the people is commendable. Wyrm said, then looked at Erica. Thank you for the compliment, Your Majesty. Erica saluted slightly. To hear you say that, Erica is worthy of her efforts over the years. Paul said. So, do you want to see my power? Wyrm raised a hand and clenched it into a fist. This question. Paul was a little distressed. What's wrong? What happened? Wyrm asked. Actually, another king is coming this way. Paul said with some distress. Wyrm instantly knew what Paul was worried about. The God Slayers were a group of eccentric guys, and because of that, people would serve them as kings. The purpose was to restrict the king's actions. After all, every king was a super bomb that exploded at random times. Every time a king was involved in something, it would cause large-scale catastrophic damage. Not to mention the direct economic losses caused, these magicians also needed to work hard to cover up the truth in the damaged areas. Then I can meet the senior. Wyrm said with a smile. Erica and others looked at Wyrm with a, sure enough, he's troublesome, look. Then Wyrm raised a hand and stretched it forward. Golden ripples appeared, and Wyrm took out a golden scepter from it. Wyrm held the staff of Ain's Ergong in his hand and gently tapped the ground with the bottom of the scepter. In an instant, the scene in front of everyone changed, and the surroundings became similar to the Roman Colosseum. Looking at the venue that was a little larger than the Roman Colosseum and the stars hanging in the sky, everyone was shocked. This is an independent space. And it's a real space. Is this the power of Welslana and Mekker? No, I'm afraid it's the power of the king as the god of disobedience. But can the god of disobedience really obtain the power of other gods? Maybe it's the ability of the king as the god of disobedience. After all, the other god slayers have also admitted that a new compatriot has been born. Listening to the whispers of the people behind Paul, Wyrm didn't want to explain anything. He couldn't say that he wasn't from this world, but he was judged as the god of disobedience by the world when he came to this world. If you want to fight, I will come here with the king, how about it? Wyrm asked. As you wish, king. Paul bowed to Wyrm. Chapter 162. Wyrm cancelled the inherent enchantment. After leaving the 6th floor of Nazalik, everyone once again returned to the deserted wasteland. Yo, you are the strange god slayer. Suddenly, a young man's voice came. Everyone looked at the source of the voice, and a young man stood there with a long tube on his back. This is Italy's King of Swords, Salvatore Anthony. Erica was afraid that Wyrm did not know the king, so she deliberately stood behind Wyrm and quietly told Wyrm. Wyrm turned his head and looked at Erica. You are quite loyal, Wyrm teased. After all, Erica had just joined Wyrm, and she began to think about Wyrm. Of course, after all, I chose to be loyal to you, Erica said with a smile. Then you will not be disappointed. Wyrm raised an unruly smile again. Minister Salvatore, you are here. Led by Paul, the people of Black Cross and Red Cross greeted Salvatore Anthony. Well, I heard that a compatriot was born here, and it is a compatriot transformed from the god of disobedience, so I hurried over to take a look. Although he said that he came over to take a look, Salvatore's eyes were burning with fighting spirit. So, the king of disobedience is you. Salvatore looked at Wyrm again. Yes, it's me. Why? Do you want to fight? Wyrm said directly as soon as he came up. Wyrm saw that Salvatore seemed to be a rather casual person. To put it simply, Salvatore was a fool. Wait a minute, the king of disobedience, didn't you say? A senior executive behind Paul said nervously. Wyrm turned his head and glanced at the man. Fong Xian, I won't fight here. With that said, the staff of Anzavulgan in his hand tapped the ground again. Ripples of energy spread out in all directions, instantly enveloping the few people present. The scene changed, and several people appeared in the arena that they had just come to. Oh. Is this your authority? It's amazing. Salvatore said excitedly. Wuming placed the staff of Anziergen into the golden ripples that appeared behind him and said to Salvatore, "This is the place where I used to live. How is it? Not bad, right? It's more than that. It's so cool." Salvatore shouted. "It's not just here. There's a vast forest outside. If it's not enough, we can go outside," Wuming said as he pointed at the door at the edge of the arena. "No, this is enough." With that, Salvatore took out a sword from the long tube behind him. Wuming gestured for Erica to bring the others to the auditorium. For a moment, only Wuming and Salvatore were left in the huge arena. Wuming looked at Salvatore, who was holding the sword, and looked at it carefully. This was a knight's sword without any special characteristics, but Wuming could feel pressure from it. "So, let's get started." As Wuming's words fell, Salvatore activated the power of the word spirit. "Swear the oath here. I won't allow anything that I can't cut to exist. And this sword is an invincible blade that can cut and cut everything on the ground." In an instant, Salvatore's arm turned into a silver metal arm. At this time, even Wuming felt a great sense of crisis. "You must not be cut." This was Wuming's instinctive thought. "I am the strongest. I will capture all the victors. Humans and demons, all enemies. I will defeat all hostile people. That is why I shall destroy all enemies that stand in my way." Wuming also chanted the words of the authority activation. "It's time. Wuming." After speaking, Salvatore instantly rushed at Wuming and slashed with his sword. Wuming quickly moved his body and dodged the blow. Boom! The ground was instantly cut like tofu. "I am the strongest, and I hold all the victories in my hands. Be it human or demon, I'm the one who will defeat any enemy that stands in my way. I will destroy any enemy that stands in my way. Giant with supreme divine power, give me your help." The long pointer on the slate in Wuming's heart pointed to the 2 o'clock direction, and the slate depicting the giant that supported the sky glowed. As the giant spirit chanted, Wuming's body was covered with a golden phantom. As if he had tens of thousands of tons of divine power, Wuming suddenly punched at Salvatore. Boom! Salvatore dodged the punch and hit the ground of the arena. Gravel splashed, and the ground of the entire arena was instantly smashed into a spider web. "What an outstanding power," Paul exclaimed in the audience. "This is Sir Wuming's giant incarnation. It is the result of the combination of Welislana's authority and Mecker's authority," Erica explained. Knowing that there would be an official magic association to name the Godslayer's authority, Wuming had already told Erica the name of his authority. Wuming didn't want to get any strange names. "Hey! If this hits me, it's not a joke." Despite saying so, Salvatore smiled. "Your sword is not a joke either," Wuming replied. At this moment, Wuming had an excited smile on his face. Wuming now knew why the Godslayer was called the Demon King and the Problem Child. Although the Godslayer was still human, its essence had changed. It was like a beast. Even the most gentle Godslayer would fight. Once the battle started, the Godslayer would ignore the surroundings and act completely according to his heart. With such a time bomb, it was no wonder that the magicians were in awe of the Godslayer. Although Wuming's root dragon bloodline would not be affected, these authorities had been transformed by Wuming into the accompanying noble phantoms. Therefore, Wuming was also affected. "Continue, Salvatore." The short needle on Wuming's inner stone plate pointed in the direction of 10 o'clock. "Be afraid of those with wings. Evil people and powerful people are afraid of me with wings. My wings will bring you a curse. Evil people can't hit me." After chanting the words again, Wuming's figure disappeared in an instant. Wuming appeared above Salvatore in an instant and gave him a punch. "What?" Salvatore spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was pressed to the ground by Wuming. Wuming frowned slightly and moved his somewhat uncomfortable body. It seems that the power of the phoenix is not as simple as acceleration. After all, for Wuming, a simple acceleration could not make his strengthened body feel uncomfortable. Afterward, Wuming looked at Salvatore, who had spat out a lot of blood, and asked, "So, do you want to continue, King of Swords?" Chapter 163. The next day, Wuming started breakfast under Erika's greeting. Because of Wuming's special permission, and Erika was not a superficial person, the two naturally ate at the same table. Then, because of the strange atmosphere, Wuming couldn't help but ask, "Erika, why are you looking at me all the time?" Wuming looked at Erika's sapphire-like pupils. "I can't help it. Although I also thought that you, Wuming, could defeat Salvatore, I didn't expect you to defeat him so easily and even knock him unconscious." Wuming couldn't help but remember how Wuming knocked down Salvatore with Giant and Phoenix yesterday. After Wuming asked, "Do you want to continue?" Wuming found that Salvatore had fainted. After all, Wuming could launch an attack from above. It could be said that he hit Salvatore's head directly. Even the God Slayer could not remain conscious after being hit in the head with tens of thousands of tons of force. Wuming lifted the inherent enchantment, and then a person who claimed to be Salvatore's attendant appeared. Erika told Wuming that this was Andre Rivera, Salvatore's confidant. He had the power of a Grand Knight and was the only existence who could rebuke Salvatore. In the information provided by Erika, Salvatore had the title of Deacon Wang in the industry. It could be said that without Andre, Salvatore could only be a warrior instead of the leader of the Southern European Magic Association Alliance. After Andre left the words, "Sorry to bother you, King of Disobedience. He will be fine in 2 days." "Don't worry," Andre took Salvatore away. Shaking his head, Wuming looked at Erika, who was still looking at him. "You seem to think that I defeated Salvatore very easily, but it's not that simple." Wuming put down the knife and fork and wiped the corners of his mouth. "The reason why I can easily defeat Salvatore is that the other party doesn't know my authority, and the other is that I directly knocked him out." "Well, actually, the latter part was the main point. But you did win the battle with Salvatore," Erika said with a smile. "People often don't care about the process, but the result. What's more, the competition before the God Slayers. Please remember this, Lord Wuming." Erika was right. Wuming also knew that sometimes the result was often more important than the process, but it did not mean that he could be arrogant just because he won against Salvatore. The point is to take him by surprise. There is nothing to say. If Salvatore is prepared, then it will not be so easy to win next time. After that, Wuming stood up and walked towards the door. Wuming opened the door. "I'm going out to study authority for a bit. I'll be back in the afternoon." With that, the sound of the door closing could be heard. Wuming took out the staff of Ain's Ergong and entered the enchantment. Lord Wuming. As soon as Wuming entered, he saw Satya and Seabass kneeling on one knee to salute him. "Aha," Wuming replied. Now, Wuming had seen through it. These guardians were loyal to him. Only Demiyugos and Ye or Abed could be flexible and would no longer kneel to Wuming. Of course, that was only in informal situations. "I need to test my newly acquired power. Prepare in the arena on the 6th floor." "Yes, Lord Wuming." Because of the enchantment, only Satya and Seabass, who followed Wuming, were here, so some work could only be left to them. Soon, Wuming came to the arena. "I am the strongest, the one who holds all victory in my hands. No matter if it's a human or a demon, I will defeat any enemy that stands in my way. Giant with unparalleled divine power, give me your aid." As the words were spoken, the long needle on the stone plate of authority pointed at 2:00. Instantly, Wuming's surroundings changed. A large amount of golden energy continuously surged out of Wuming's body, forming a tall energy giant. The appearance of the energy giant could not be seen clearly, as if it had been pixelated. The giant's muscles were ligated, and only the lower half of its body was covered by a golden energy battle skirt. The rest of its body was naked. Wuming floated in the head of the energy giant and looked down. So that's how to use the giant incarnation. Then, Wuming continued to chant. "All evildoers, be afraid of my power. Now, I will have the majesty of 10 mountains, the power of 100 rivers, and the strength of 1,000 dragons. The majestic me will raise the mark of a fierce dragon. The short needle on the stone plate pointed at 1 o'clock. Instantly, the golden energy giant that enveloped Wyrm changed. A long dragon tail grew out from behind him, and golden energy dragon scales were densely arranged on the giant's naked skin. His hands and feet became fierce and sharp, and his face that couldn't be seen clearly instantly became real, like a dragon's head, with a pair of fierce dragon horns growing out of his head. At this moment, the golden energy giant had completely turned into a golden energy dragon man. Wyrm tested a few other authorities, and the results were different from what he knew. As expected, so the power of authority is not just that. Although these authorities have become my noble phantoms, I still can't completely control them. I still need to train. After all, this was a super high-level spell that Pandora and Epimetheus had set up that affected the whole world. If it was placed in the shape moon world, it could be said to be more powerful than magic. Wyrm could not help but think of the night when he was called the God Slayer. After Wyrm fell asleep, as if he was dreaming, Wyrm came to a place that was completely white. Wyrm took 2 steps and stopped. Master Wyrm, someone used an unknown great spell to bring your spirit to this place. Kalis was a noble phantasm that was connected to Wyrm's soul, so naturally, she could come with Wyrm. If you want to play tricks, don't blame me for not holding back. Wyrm said to the air around him. Wah, don't hit me. Suddenly, a seductive female voice was heard. Wyrm turned his head and saw a cute loli with a child's face and body. Her purple waist-length hair was tied into 2 ponytails with a white hairband behind her back. The accessories on her ears were slightly large purple ball-shaped pendants. Although she did not have a figure at all, she was still wearing a thin white low-cut dress. Even so, she was still very seductive. Wyrm had never seen a woman with such charm. Wyrm guessed that other than Ishtar whom he met at Mount Abif, no one else could be compared to her. Come, little Wyrm, I'm your mother. The little loli opened her arms and hugged Wyrm. No. Wyrm pushed her head away. Because of her figure, the little loli's hands could not touch Wyrm's body. Then, the little loli looked at Wyrm with a heartbroken expression. I'm so sad that you treat your mother like this. Sob, sob, Wyrm was a little helpless. If you want to sob, you don't have to say it out loud. Then, little Wyrm, can you call me mother? The little loli looked at Wyrm with an expectant expression. Wyrm did not care about the topic and asked directly, who are you? Chapter 164. At this time, the purple-haired little loli also became serious. I'm Pandora, Pandora. Wyrm said while rubbing his chin. Let's just say that Wyrm's Nathalikri's Pandora had nothing to do with this. Wyrm naturally knew of Pandora, who asked Pandora to be so famous. In Greek mythology, in order to punish the humans who were given fire by Prometheus, the god specifically ordered Hephaestus, the god of fire, to use the goddess as the foundation of water and earth to create a beautiful woman. This woman's name was Pandora. Every god gave Pandora something, causing Pandora to become a perfect woman. The gods married her to Epimetheus, the younger brother of Prometheus. Then, the gods gave Pandora a box. Driven by curiosity, Pandora opened Pandora's box, which released disasters, plagues, and scourges. Although Pandora closed the box in time, the disasters, plagues, and scourges had already escaped. Only the hope given by Athena remained. Then, what were your thoughts when you created the God Slayer, Pandora? Wyrm looked at Pandora fiercely and directly began to question Pandora. Pandora was stunned for a moment, then her eyes turned red, tears flowed down, and she began to cry. Wah! Looking at Pandora who began to cry, Wyrm was a little panicked. Wyrm wanted to directly question Pandora, but Wyrm did not expect Pandora to cry like this. Wyrm, who had never made a girl cry, was at a loss. Then, Wyrm could only copy the way he comforted Mayu, hugging Pandora in his arms and stroking her head. Sorry, I was too serious. I apologize, please forgive me. Wu Ming looked at Pandora rather sincerely. Pandora also looked at Wu Ming with tears in her eyes. Then, Pandora somewhat choked and asked, Really? Yes, I'm sorry, it's my fault, please forgive me. Wu Ming hurriedly apologized again. Then, Pandora wiped her tears and looked at Wu Ming with red and swollen eyes. Then, can you call me Mom, this? Wu Ming now felt speechless. In the end, Wu Ming compromised. Sister Pandora. Although Pandora was still a little dissatisfied, Wu Ming still said firmly, just call me sister, if you can't then forget it. Then. All right then, Pandora said. Then, Pandora hugged Wu Ming happily and said, little brother is brother, it's my first time. Listening to this incomparably cheerful voice, Wu Ming was a little speechless. He wondered if Pandora's crying just now was an act. Okay, Pandora, it's time to answer my question. Wu Ming patted Pandora's back and said. Yes, what question? Pandora let go of Wu Ming with a happy face. What exactly is a god slayer? Why can I, a person who is not from this world, obtain authority? What is the use of authority? The god slayer is the product of a worldwide curse that Epimetheus and I created together. It is a guardian to help humans through difficult times. Pandora replied. And the reason you can obtain omnipotence is because I want you to become a god slayer, it's that simple. As for authority, this needs to be judged and used by yourself. Besides, the god slayer is an existence that can automatically increase power, so, authority is slowly grasped. Pandora's face was full of joy as she spoke while swaying left and right. After becoming a god slayer, not only will you be immune to attacks below the god level, but you will also have the benefit of automatically increasing your strength. As long as you fight, your strength will rapidly increase. Then, Pandora touched Wu Ming's cheek and said, as long as you fight, you will definitely become stronger. Even an ordinary person without any fighting strength will have the will to fight the moment they become a god slayer. You have to cherish this authority well. In order to instill the power of the god slayer into you, I spent a lot of effort. Then, Wu Ming's consciousness was sent back to his body. Until now. Wu Ming removed the authority, and the light of the stone plate dimmed. What an irresponsible sister, I haven't finished asking. Then, Wu Ming looked at Sebastian and Zaisha standing beside him and said, you have adapted to the authority. I've more or less adapted to my authority. Sebastian, Zaisha, come with me. Yes, Lord Wu Ming. Yes, Lord Wu Ming. In the outside world, Wu Ming suddenly appeared somewhere with Sebastian and Zaisha. Zaisha, Wu Ming suddenly said. Yes, Lord Wu Ming. Zaisha walked to Wu Ming's side with a charming expression. I have a mission for you, Wu Ming said to Zaisha. Then, Wu Ming had Zaisha lean over, and Wu Ming read the mission to her. Yes, Lord Wu Ming. This subordinate will not let you down. Because Wu Ming's breath touched Zaisha's ear when he spoke, her face was flushed, and she spoke with a trembling voice like a young girl in love. Wu Ming smiled helplessly. I thought that after the sublimation of her origin, Zaisha wouldn't be so. Her personality wouldn't change. Remember, don't kill anyone if you can. Although your weakness has been uprooted, it's still best not to cause trouble. Yes, I understand, Lord Wu Ming. Zaisha bowed, then turned into a black shadow and left. Sebastian. Wu Ming looked at Sebastian. Here. Sebastian placed his right hand on his heart and bowed to Wu Ming. Stay by my side and be my butler. Yes, Lord Wu Ming. Although Zaisha and Sebastian had undergone the baptism of their origin, they did not seem to have changed at all. Zaisha was still wearing her purplish-black princess dress with a cake-like hem. Sebastian was still wearing his black butler suit. It could be said that neither of them had changed in terms of appearance or temperament. However, Wu Ming knew very well that the two of them could no longer be compared to their previous selves. It could be said that Zaisha and Sebastian were the strongest people in Nasalik apart from Wu Ming. Even the uncontrollable hidden trump card of Nasalic, libido, might not be able to defeat Zaisha and Sebastian. That's all for now. I'll bring you to meet my new subordinate. Then, Wuming brought Sebastian to the villa provided by Erica. As soon as he pushed open the door, Wuming heard an extremely pleasant voice. Chapter 165. Wuming pushed the door open and entered. What he saw was Erica entertaining an exceptionally beautiful girl. The girl looked about 20 years old. She had long golden wavy hair shining with brilliance. She looked very beautiful, and her skin was white and delicate. Her clothes were matched with a white coat, a short knitted dress and pants under the coat, and black boots. You must be the seventh god slayer, Sir Wuming. I am Alice Louise of Nefar. Nice to meet you, Sir Wuming. Alice spoke in a calm tone, coupled with Alice's perfume-like noble temperament. Wuming couldn't help but take a second look. Ahem, Sir Wuming, it's almost time for you to answer Princess Alice's question. Erica said with some displeasure. After all, such a great beauty is in front of you every day, but you choose to look at someone else, although that person is indeed beautiful. I see. It's nice to meet you, Your Royal Highness Princess Alice. Wuming said with an elegant aristocrat's salute. In the information provided by Erica, there was this Princess Alice. Duke Godding's daughter, known as Princess Alice to the outside world, became the Speaker of the Sage Council of Greenwich at the age of 16. Now, she stepped down from the position of the Speaker of the Sage Council of Greenwich and was the current special advisor. Because of her extremely high magic talent, she was also known as the White Witch G. Speaking of this White Witch G, she was amazing. She was a genius girl who could fight the God Slayer with wisdom and courage. The British God Slayer, Alexander Gascoigne, was known as the son of the Black Prince Yarek. The Black Prince was once driven out of the United Kingdom by the White Witch G, Princess Alice, and Erica's uncle, Paul Brantley. Because his authority was inclined to support and character, the Black Prince did not entangle too much with Alice and Paul but chose to retreat. Not only did this bring benefits to Alice, but it also gave Paul, a Grand Knight, an unsurpassable reputation. The story of the Witch G and the Grand Knight working together to fight against the God Slayer and successfully driving him away was widely known by magicians. It was also because of this that Alice was called the Princess and Paul became the commander of the Black Cross. As a God Slayer himself, Wuming naturally knew how terrifying a God Slayer was. Even if the Black Prince Yarek, the God Slayer, didn't have a strong combat ability, he shouldn't be underestimated. Moreover, it was mainly Alice's wisdom that played a role. Paul was only a supporting force. To be able to use her wits and the power of a Grand Knight to chase away a Godslayer was already a testament to Alice's shocking intelligence. Coupled with her heaven-shaking beauty, Wuming couldn't help but look at her in a new light. So, what is Princess Alice doing here? Wuming began to ask Alice, going straight to the point. At this point, Alice felt a little awkward. Actually, I'm here to stop your duel with the Sword King. Alice received news that the seventh king had been born in Italy. Soon after, Alice received news that the Sword King was on his way to Italy. Moreover, the seventh king still stayed in Italy and did not leave. Alice, who had super high wisdom, immediately figured out why the other party was in a hurry to Italy. With Alice's understanding of the stupid Sword King, he must have gone to spar with the new king. Moreover, when Alice was about to use Ghost Body to go to Italy, she was discovered by her housekeeper and nanny, Erickson. So, under Erickson's strong opposition and physical control, Alice was kept in the United Kingdom. Although it's a little late, I still want to thank you for not causing irreparable damage to the surroundings because of your duel with Salvatore. Alice said with a slight smile. The news that the King of Disobedience Wuming and the Sword King Salvatore Tony had a duel in the King of Disobedience's own barrier and one spread like wildfire. The news was spread by the magicians of the Black Cross, and it seemed that the Sword King also intended to do so. In short, because of the indulgent behavior of the Sword King, magicians all over the world knew that the new king defeated the Sword King. This made Princess Alice, who had just arrived in Italy and Europe from the United Kingdom, very helpless. With the idea that she had already come out, in fact, she was tired of staying at home, and Alice also wanted to see the new king, so the scene of Erica entertaining Princess Alice appeared. Sitting on the sofa, Wyrm couldn't help laughing and said, "So, our famous Princess Alice just got tired of staying at home and ran away from home?" "No. I didn't run away from home, it's just that Erickson is too strict and keeps me in the house," Alice said with a little blush. In this regard, Wyrm just smiled. "Well, since you are out, please enjoy the outside world. I will let Erica follow you," Wyrm said. Erica asked Wyrm in confusion, "Then, may I ask who this old man is, Wyrm?" In these days of living with Wyrm, Erica had almost figured out Wyrm. It could be said that if she wasn't very sure that Wyrm was indeed a god-slayer, Erica wouldn't believe that the new king had such a good temper. The new king didn't mind at all if she called him by his name. Hearing Erica ask about Sebastian, Wyrm began to introduce him. "This is my butler, Sebastian Dean." Then there was a moment of silence. "And?" Erica asked helplessly. That wasn't what she wanted to know. Alice also had a curious look on her face. "If I have to say, Sebastian is my power," Wyrm said. Wyrm waved at Sebastian, motioning for him to say a few words. "Greetings, ladies. I am Lord Wyrm's butler, Sebastian. Please advise me." Sebastian put his right hand on his heart, and his left hand was close to his trousers, and bowed slightly with a serious face. "Speaking of which, I remember that one also has this kind of tamed monster power," Alice suddenly said. "You must be referring to the Queen of the Faceless, the daughter of the Black Prince Yarek," Erica said. Wyrm also remembered the power recorded in Black Prince Yarek's information. The ability to summon Melusin, the legendary two-tailed mermaid and half-human half-snake goddess, as a tamed monster. The summoned Melusin had her own consciousness because of the goddess herself, so she had high wisdom. That was undoubtedly what Sebastian wanted. Chapter 166. Thinking of this, Wyrm shook his head and said, "Even so, Sebastian is not a familiar." After looking at Erica, Wyrm looked at Alice and continued. "In terms of strength alone, Sebastian is almost comparable to any of the god-slayers." As soon as these words came out, Erica and Alice were a little surprised. The reason why the god-slayers were called god-slayers was that in addition to having the authority to kill the god of death, they also had a super high level of physical defense. The God-Slayer had a magic immune body that was immune to divine attacks, and the body of the God-Slayer also had super high endurance in terms of defense against physical damage. At the very least, they would not be injured under a series of conditions that were fatal to humans, such as being stabbed with a knife and jumping down from a high-rise building. As for large-caliber sniper rifles, it was hard to say. After all, no one dared to use a sniper rifle to experiment on the God-Slayer, and the magicians disdained and dared not use sniper rifles on the God-Slayer. In case the God-Slayer did not die, then they would face a punishment more terrifying than the catastrophe and the god of disobedience. No country or organization would be able to bear such a burden. When the Far East Island invaded China in the mid-19th century, they contradicted the second God-Slayer, the Wuxia King of China, Luo Hao. As a result, the Wuxia King single-handedly attacked their home base, grabbed their official government leaders, and directly caused the failure of the invasion war. At that time, they used the top magic weapons at that time, and the power of the entire country could not stop a God-Slayer. Since then, no one had underestimated the God-Slayer. Even the kindest Madame Aisha, who did not want to fight, could not be underestimated. This was because the God-Slayer had the power to cause trouble. Once he caused trouble, it would be as troublesome as several God-Slayers combined. Alice and Paul could join forces to repel the God-Slayer, Black Prince Yarek. Firstly, the series of events that Black Prince Yarek had done were too excessive, causing the dissatisfaction of almost all the magicians in Europe. Secondly, Yarek claimed that he was different from other God-Slayers and was a person who fought with his brain. In addition, he lost to Alice in wisdom, which led to Black Prince Yarek's departure. It could be said that if Yarek really wanted to deal with Alice and the others, he would do it even if it was troublesome. It could only be said that Alice had already figured out the Black Prince's personality. She knew that if she could outsmart him, he would not continue to pester her for the sake of his dignity. If it had been any other god-slayer, they would have charged at Alice with their own power, even if they had lost in terms of intelligence. Sir Wuming, you are exaggerating. Sebastian bowed to Wuming. Wuming had told Sebastian and Sebastian about this world when they were practicing their authority in the underground tomb of Nasarick, so Sebastian knew about the god of disobedience and the god-slayer in this world. Don't underestimate yourself, Sebastian. Wuming looked at the humble Sebastian and continued, you should know that you are now my subordinate god. Even if you can't defeat me, you might still be able to win against someone who can't restrain you. Wuming was right. After the baptism of Origin, Sebastian could now become a dragon. Not only that, but he was also a dragon close to Wuming, which contained a trace of the power of Origin. As long as it was not the kind of authority that could slay a dragon, basically no one could kill Sebastian, who had a strong body. Speaking of dragon attributes, Wuming's attributes had to be talked about. Without the dragon attribute added by the servant, Wuming's Origin, dragon bloodline was no longer a dragon attribute. The Origin, dragon was just an addition of the word dragon to its appearance and name. As a creature born from the world's origin, how could there be any power that could restrain it? Therefore, the Origin, dragon itself was Wuming's greatest advantage, a strong body that surpassed everything else, adaptability from all time and space, and no creature or device that could restrain it. If one had to say, the black mud with the smell of Wuming's hometown that restrained Wuming was the weapon that restrained Wuming. You're right, Lord Wuming. I was stupid, Sebastian said. Wuming waved his hand and said, it's not your fault. After all, you just obtained this power. You can feel it after using it once. Forget it, Sebastian. Go and prepare dinner, Wuming said with a headache. Yes, Lord Wuming. Sebastian left. Then, Wuming looked at Alice and Erica with a look of disdain. This is really troublesome. Anyway, you can think of Sebastian's origin however you want. You can think of him as my subordinate god or as my power. That's it, Wuming said with a little temper. Then, he leaned back on the sofa. Erica and Alice looked at each other, and then they both smiled. You're really like a child, Wuming, Erica teased. I didn't expect Lord Wuming to have such a cute side, Alice said. Because Alice and Erica were old friends, Erica had told Alice about Wuming's easygoing personality, which was why Alice was so presumptuous. Wuming looked at the two of them with dead fish eyes. Since he stopped using the body of a servant, Wuming's temperament had changed back to that of a teenager. Even though he had been active in Connaught, Britain, and Uruk for nearly 50 years, Wuming still had the mentality of a teenager. Actually, if one really had to say, Wuming could be considered a problem child. His time as a servant was only slightly affected by his rank and origin at that time. By the way, Alice, you should have other purposes for coming to me, right? Wuming ignored the two's teasing and suddenly changed the topic. Alice and Erica also stopped teasing. Then, Alice said to Wuming, Wuming-sama, do you know about Gorgon's stone? Gorgon's stone? Wuming muttered. Then Wuming asked, is it the Gorgon in Greek mythology? Yes. Alice said, then looked at Erica, motioning Erica to answer for her. Erica nodded and said, this is the case, Wuming. Alice once made a prophecy about Gorgon's stone, and the result was not good. When there is no moon and stars, darkness will cover the earth. At that time, human beings will not be able to survive, Erica said. Alice is a witch with the ability of spirit vision. Her prophecies have never failed. Wuming sneered at that. So, how about I break the prophecy this time? Chapter 167. Judging from the prophecy, this seems to be the power of the god of disobedience. There are only a few gods who are related to Gorgon's stone. Wuming held his chin with both hands as he looked at Alice and Erica. The main ones are the three Gorgon sisters, Medusa, Stheno, and Euryale. However, I don't think the 3 Gorgon sisters who've been belittled as monsters would have the desire to destroy the world. Subsequently, Wyrm said casually, anyway, give me the Gorgon's stone now. I'll settle this. Alice and Erica looked at each other for a moment, then nodded. At night, Wyrm was alone in his study room. His desk was filled with books, and the books on the bookshelf were different from before. Erica had replaced all the books here. They were all books about myths and legends. Meanwhile, the books on Wyrm's desk were all about Gorgon. Wyrm picked up the Gorgon stone in his hand and studied it carefully for a while. The Gorgon stone was an obsidian metal with a portrait of a Gorgon engraved on it. Wyrm could not help but exclaim as he looked at the Gorgon stone that looked like Medusa's head, this doesn't seem like an ordinary god relic. Wyrm had seen a god relic once before he became a god slayer. It was the young man he had met when he first arrived in this world, the grassy guardian. The slate in his hand was a spellbook, which was a god relic. Wyrm would not misjudge his senses after becoming a god slayer. Because of that, Wyrm could clearly sense that the power contained in the Gorgon stone was not as simple as it seemed. Just like, the godhead of a god. Wyrm said calmly. Wyrm, who had the golden sword, could feel that the power of the Gorgon stone gave him the same feeling as when Wyrm used the golden sword to cut through Welislana's godhood. I wonder if the golden sword has any effect on the materialized divinity. Wyrm stroked his chin and shook his head. I don't dare to do anything. Let's first record the knowledge about Gorgon. Then, Wyrm picked up a book on the desk and opened it, saying, please, Kalis. Yes, master. The dragon horn on Wyrm's head flashed, and like a scanner, a golden light shone on the book in Wyrm's hand. Almost a few seconds later, Kalis put away the scanning ray. Master, do you want me to transfer the knowledge to you now? Kalis asked. Just transfer it directly. After all, time is running out, Wyrm said, and then closed his eyes. After a few seconds, Wyrm opened his eyes. No matter how I look at it, I feel that it's great to have you here, Kalis. Wyrm smiled. That's just because you're lazy, master. Kalis said with a helpless tone. After all, Wyrm had a photographic memory now. However, with Kalis here, why would Wyrm waste time and effort to slowly read these myths by himself? Well, doesn't this show how important you are, my dear Kalis? Hurry up and continue to the next book. Try to enter all the knowledge about Gorgon before you go to bed. Yes, yes. However, no matter how he listened to it, Wyrm felt that Kalis's voice had a hint of shyness. Wyrm and Kalis kept repeating the cycle of scanning, transferring knowledge, and receiving knowledge. The next day, Wyrm, who was sitting at the dining table, yawned. Erica couldn't help but say, you didn't really read myths the whole night yesterday, did you? Erica couldn't help but think of what Wyrm had said after his conversation with Alice and Erica the day before. Erica, please send the books about myths to my study. Gorgon first, please. Then, Erica complained and contacted the staff of the Black Cross. They removed the historical records and information about European magic in Wyrm's study overnight and replaced them with books about myths. Of course, because there were more books, Erica put many books in other rooms, waiting for Wyrm to finish reading the books in the study before replacing them. Although Erica complained when she contacted the Black Cross, the staff of the Black Cross, including its commander, Paul, said with a smile, compared to the other god slayers, Lord Wyrm is really easy to serve. That's right, as long as he didn't cause trouble everywhere, not to mention all the books about myths, even if Wyrm wanted to be the commander of the Black Cross, Paul would agree unconditionally. When Wyrm learned these words from Erica, Wyrm's expression was quite strange. Wyrm couldn't help but think, are the god slayers such a headache for magician? Although it was hard to believe, the god slayers were such a headache for others. No matter how honest Wyrm was, no matter how much he didn't stir up trouble, no one would be able to put their hearts at ease. After all, among the 7 god slayers, Madame Aisha, who was known as the one who didn't want to fight the most, also had the power of a natural disaster. If she was accidentally implicated, she would be even more terrifying than the oldest god slayer, Marquis Wabin. While eating, Wuming said to Erica, "It's no big deal. I have callus. I just stayed up for a short while yesterday." Wuming had long told Erica about callus, so Wuming was not afraid that Erica didn't understand. But Alice, a young man who had just come into contact with Wuming, was quite interested in this callus that Wuming mentioned. At this moment, the golden dragon horns on Wuming's head appeared, and he said, "Actually, to put it bluntly, Master is just lazy in bed." "That's where you're wrong." Wuming continued after eating a mouthful of rice. "Now I realize that the bed is the greatest invention of mankind." "Callus won't believe an excuse," Callus retorted. Alice watched the conversation between the master and servant with interest. She then asked Wuming, "Master Wuming, do you think?" "Master Wuming, does Ms. Callus belong to you as well?" Wuming answered after taking a sip of milk, "You can put it that way. You can think of Callus as a super high-level god relic that has its own consciousness." In reality, Wuming was right. Wasn't Callus, who was connected to Wuming's soul and had become his relic, Wuming's authority? Since he was known as the god of disobedience, wasn't his tool a god relic? "Master Wuming, you're such an interesting person." Alice smiled. It could not be helped. It was impossible for Wuming not to be special. After all, he was a god-slayer known as the god of disobedience. Chapter 168. Wuming separated from Erica and Alice after breakfast. Wuming asked Erica to take Alice around Italy, and Wuming specifically told Erica not to come to him. However, in order to make a fair deal, Erica asked Wuming, "Please don't involve the people." Wuming smiled helplessly. "Don't worry, I'm not one of those battle maniacs. When I fight, I forget about the surroundings. Besides, I have an inherent barrier, and I will put the battlefield inside the inherent barrier." Wuming still clearly remembered Erica's suspicious eyes. After that, Wuming came to a small island in the Mediterranean Sea. Crash, listening to the sound of the wind blowing the waves, Wuming couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Then, Wuming took out Gorgon's stone. Although I can seal Gorgon's stone with a sealing technique, it's better to solve it in one go. After that, Wuming stretched out his hand and chanted the spell, "Create great item, advanced item creation." With the condensation of magical particles, a lightning-shaped blue dagger appeared in Wuming's hand. That was Castor Media's noble artifact, Rulebreaker. Wuming gently touched Gorgon's stone with Rulebreaker. In an instant, the Banshee's eyes on Gorgon's stone glowed scarlet, and a powerful magical power burst out. "That's all right." Looking at Gorgon's stone, which had completely broken the seal, Razan said. When Wuming got Gorgon's stone, there was a noble artifact seal set by Black Cross on it. Although the seal was broken, it still had some effect. At this moment, in order to avoid trouble, Wuming directly broke the seal. Wuming stretched out his hand again and took out Staff of Anziurgan from the golden ripple on his side. He put Staff of Anziurgan beside him, and Staff of Anziurgan automatically floated in the air, rotating slowly. "Next, we just have to wait," Wuming said, sitting cross-legged on the ground and closing his eyes. When it was almost night, Wuming felt that Gorgon's stone began to heat up, which was proof that its owner was about to arrive. Wuming opened his eyes and said, "Is it coming?" Wuming said as he watched the darkness engulf the island like a black cloud. "Is this the starless night?" Wuming broke the seal on Gorgon's stone in the morning. Although he didn't know why the other party chose to do it at night instead of during the day, Wuming could roughly guess. It should be a god related to darkness. Because Wuming was on a small island, there was no landing point other than where Wuming was, so Athena floated in the air. "So it's you, the strange person who has my snake," Athena said. Wuming looked at Athena and couldn't help but smile. She had the body of a primary school student, short silver hair, black snake-like vertical pupils, a white long-sleeved shirt and a yellow sleeveless sweater, a black short skirt, blue knee-length stockings, brown leather shoes, and a blue braided hat that looked like a beast's ear. No matter how Wuming looked at her, she looked like a cute primary school student. Of course, that was if she didn't have a huge amount of mana. "My name is Athena." You are both my compatriot and my natural enemy. Tell me your name. Athena's vertical pupils stared coldly at Wu Ming. Just call me Wu Ming, Athena. Wu Ming said with a smile, and at the same time, he released his mana. You're an interesting fellow. Even though I would like to know why you, who share the same origin as me, would become my enemy, I'll retreat for now since it's you, Athena said as she sensed something amiss the moment Wu Ming unleashed his magical powers. Then, the darkness around the island began to retreat, and Athena also left in another direction. I will leave my snake with you for the time being, someone who shares the same origin. This made Wu Ming a little confused. It can't be because of my identity as the god of disobedience in this world. Wu Ming said after thinking for a moment. Although Wu Ming was still Wu Ming was branded as the god of disobedience when he came to this world. Of course, this brand did not bind Wu Ming, it just gave him another identity. Wu Ming did not care at first. But now, it seemed that this identity of the god of disobedience was a little special. Even Athena knew about him. When Wu Ming released his mana, Wu Ming saw the expression on Athena's face. It was obviously a look of surprise when she saw someone familiar or when she knew about Wu Ming's existence. Seriously, giving me such a headache every day. Gaia and Alea are like this, even this world without any restraints is like this. Wu Ming complained helplessly. Wu Ming could not help but remember that Gaia and Alea created a historical story for Wu Ming in order to make him a servant of the human faction. That history was not fake, but the restraints threw Wu Ming into a historical story. To put it bluntly, it was just giving Wu Ming another identity. Just like Wu Ming in this world, a stone thrown into the lake would definitely cause the lake to change. Wu Ming even suspected that this was a collusion between the worlds. Shaking his head, Wu Ming did not think about it anymore. He put away the inherent barrier in the staff of Anziwergong that he had set up in the outside world. Wu Ming instinctively opened a portal and walked in. In the villa, Erica and Alice sat on the sofa, drinking their respective drinks and chatting intermittently. It's already night time, and there's still no news of Lord Wu Ming, Alice said worriedly. Wu Ming should have moved the battlefield to his own barrier, and maybe he didn't come. Erica said. By the way, Erica, do you think Lord Wu Ming can win? Alice asked. Erica did not care about this and said confidently, winning is not a problem. Alice was a little puzzled. Why is Erica so sure? Erica took a sip of coffee and said, that's because he's the king I have to serve. As a subordinate, how can I not believe in my master? Alice was a little unhappy. What a cunning answer. Then she said, by the way, Lord Wu Ming is really miraculous. A disobedient god actually became a godslayer. This is something that has never happened since ancient times. At this moment, Alice was suddenly stunned. Light flowed in her eyes as if she was playing something. Alice? Erica noticed that something was wrong with Alice. She quickly put down the coffee in her hand, stood up, and walked toward Alice. Could it be? Spirit vision has been triggered. Erica was indeed a genius of the Red Cross and Black Cross. She immediately noticed Alice's current state. At this moment, a black-purple portal opened, and Wu Ming walked out of it. Chapter 169. Wu Ming walked out of the portal and saw Erica standing next to Alice, who was in a daze. What's wrong with Alice? Wu Ming asked Erica. Erica shook her head and said, she's fine. Alice merely triggered her spirit vision. Spirit vision had two modes, active and passive. The prophecy of the starless moon and Gorgon's stone was precisely what Alice had predicted by activating her spirit vision. Clearly, her spirit vision was passive this time. Wu Ming walked to Erica's side. Looking at the dazed Alice, he mumbled, is there a new prophecy? It was also at this moment that Alice's eyes regained their luster. This meant that her spirit vision had ended. How is it, Alice? Did something new happen? Erica asked as she bent down in front of Alice as soon as it was over. Alice glanced at Erica, then looked at Wu Ming. Lord Wu Ming. Alice looked at Wu Ming in a daze. seeing that something was wrong with Alice, Wyrm hurriedly shouted, "Alice! Alice!" As if Wyrm had been awakened, Alice's body swayed violently. As if Wyrm had short-circuited, Alice's body became unstable as if she was about to disappear. Just as she was about to fall, Wyrm instantly appeared beside Alice and hugged her. "Lord Wyrm, I'm sorry. It seems that I won't be able to tell you a new prophecy here," Alice said as she lay weakly in Wyrm's arms. "Is it the side effect of spirit vision that's causing your spirit body to become unstable?" Wyrm asked. "Don't worry." After saying that, Wyrm closed his eyes. On the stone plate in his heart, the long needle instantly moved to the 12 o'clock position. It was a mage wearing a long robe whose face couldn't be seen clearly. The stone plate lit up. Then, Wyrm seemed to have obtained a supreme divine power. His body flashed with a golden light, and his eyes emitted a golden light. Like a big golden light bulb, Erica and Alice in Wyrm's arms couldn't help but squint their eyes. "Is this Lord Wyrm's power?" Alice, who was in Wyrm's arms, asked weakly. "Yes, this is the mage's incarnation, which evolved from Wyrm's youth's incarnation. The young man's incarnation had a powerful power of speech, it could bless human beings, gain power from human beings, and it also had a very important thing, blessing. Naturally, the magician that evolved from the youth also had the ability to grant protection to others. It's coming, Alice." After saying that, Wyrm's face slowly moved towards Alice. Wait, no. Wyrm, Sama." Alice, who had never experienced such a thing, closed her eyes with a red face. Then, just when Alice thought that Wyrm was going to kiss her, there was nothing wrong with her lips, only her forehead. Alice opened her eyes and saw Wyrm's forehead tightly pressed against hers. Wyrm's big golden eyes looked at Alice with a hint of a smile. Alice was a little embarrassed, and her face instantly became more rosy. "Focus, close your eyes, I'm going to give you a blessing," Wyrm reminded her. Yes, Alice said with a red face. Then, Alice closed her eyes and began to receive Wyrm's blessing. A steady stream of huge magical power was transmitted to Alice's body through her forehead. In an instant, the magical power was transformed into vitality, replenishing Alice's weak body. Alice felt as if she was soaking in a hot spring. Her surroundings were filled with warmth, and gradually, Alice had the idea of falling asleep. After Wyrm felt that it was enough, his forehead left Alice's forehead and removed the mage's incarnation. Looking at Alice, who had a happy smile on her face and closed her eyes, Wyrm patted Alice's cheek and said, "Wake up, don't fall asleep." Alice suddenly opened her eyes, looked at Wyrm with some embarrassment, and said, "Sorry, Lord Wyrm, the feeling just now was too comfortable, and I accidentally indulged in it." Wyrm was a little curious, and then said, "Was it that comfortable?" After all, this was the first time Wyrm used the power of blessing on others, and he was not very familiar with it. Maybe my divine aura was mixed in. Wyrm thought so. Then, Wyrm continued, "Because your body is not your real body now, I did not give you too much blessing. This blessing can last for about 7 days, and it can be said that there is no problem at all to maintain your ghost body. Thank you very much, Lord Wyrm." Alice smiled sweetly and looked at Wyrm. Wyrm shook his head, indicating that there was no need to be so polite, and then continued, "In a few days, I will go to England. At that time, I will personally add a longer blessing to your body. I believe that if this is the case, you should be able to use your own body to walk around, and you don't need the ghost body." Wyrm's words made Alice fall into deep thought. Being able to walk freely in various areas was something that Alice had never thought of. After all, Alice's body was weak because of the negative effects of her powerful talent. This was not a disease, and it was basically untreatable. Just as Wyrm looked at the pondering Alice, the person next to him was a little unhappy about being ignored. "I say, it's about time for you to let go," Erica said with a fake smile, but everyone could hear the anger in Alice's voice. At this moment, Wyrm and Alice realized that the two were still hugging each other. Ah! Alice screamed and quickly broke free from Wuming's two big hands. Wuming took the initiative to let go of Alice and smiled awkwardly. Ahem, although your highness Alice's body is fine, your spirit hasn't fully recovered. Your highness Alice, would you like to take a rest? Erica said after coughing. Spirit vision consumed not only magic power but also the caster's spirit power. This was also the reason why many witches fainted after divination. It was because the things they prophesied were too huge. The huge here didn't refer to the body, but to the status. Wuming also nodded in agreement, then looked at Alice. Alice shook her head and said, I'm fine. I think it's better to tell Lord Wuming the new prophecy as soon as possible. And after Lord Wuming added a blessing to me, I feel unusually excited. I don't feel the fatigue from using spirit vision at all. With that, Alice jumped up and down like a little girl to show that she was completely fine. Seeing that Alice had said so, Wuming and Erica didn't insist. Chapter 170. Alice, Wuming, and Erica sat on the sofa together. Then, Yali Anna served drinks for the three of them. Wuming and Erica both looked at Alice quietly, waiting for her to say the prophecy. The starless night was broken by the legendary dragon. The earth withered, the sea dried up, and the world fell into a dead silence. The divine saber and the holy sword collided, and the hero and the demon king confronted each other, Alice said. I saw a brave man with a divine sword and a demon king with a holy sword in Japan. Every blow had supreme power. The sky was torn apart, the earth was torn apart, and the sea was burned to dry up. As if she had remembered the scene she saw in the prophecy, Alice's body trembled a little as she said. Wuming grabbed Alice's hand. As if she had found a life-saving straw, Alice calmed down. Don't think about that for now, Alice. You saw a scene that was too long in the timeline or too high level. It's not something you can bear right now, Wuming comforted her. Then, Wuming, Alice, and Erica began to think about the meaning of this paragraph. Let's see how the legendary dragon broke the starless night. The starless night should refer to Athena. Then, does this legendary dragon refer to Wuming? Erica said. Wuming shook his head and said, not necessarily. Athena came today, but she might not have the confidence to attack me. After I said something to Athena, she left on her own. At this moment, Erica said excitedly, wait. You didn't kill Athena. At first, when Wuming returned, Erica didn't ask him if he had killed Athena because of Alice. However, Erica still had confidence in Wuming, so she didn't ask again. Looking at the agitated Erica, Wuming smiled. Isn't that normal? I'm not in urgent need of authority to increase my strength, and Athena shows no signs of declaring war on me. Isn't this a good result? Wuming found that the power of Welslana and Mekl was enough for the time being. It should be said that even if it was only Welslana's power, after being sublimated into Wuming's noble phantasm, Wuming could be regarded as an existence that could do whatever he wanted. As such, there was no need to overly pursue power. Wuming was an origin dragon. As long as he was accelerated by external forces or waited until he reached adulthood, Wuming's power would naturally undergo a qualitative change. Pursuing power was nothing more than an act of Wuming to protect himself during his childhood. There was no need to overdo it. Erica sighed and said unhappily, forget it. You're the king. You call the shots. Looking at the unhappy Erica, Wuming comforted her. Don't worry, Athena is now lacking a divine spark. Even if she stays on the ground, it won't affect time. Alice covered her mouth and laughed. Lord Wuming is really magnanimous. This is called confidence. Wuming shrugged. Ahem. So, if the legendary dragon isn't Wuming, then who is it? Everyone pondered. The legendary dragon should be referring to myself. Breaking the starless night shouldn't be referring to what happened today. After all, Athena retreated of her own accord and didn't fight. At present, the Gorgon stone is still in my hands. The legendary dragon breaking the starless night is likely to happen in the future. Wuming thought. Let's not talk about this for now. Have you noticed that the demon king with the holy sword is likely to be the god slayer? Because his speculation was almost done, Wuming began to change the topic. According to the saying, the confrontation between the hero and the demon king, if the demon king refers to the god slayer, then the hero with the divine sword refers to the god of disobedience, Erica said. And the series of disasters mentioned later are likely to be caused by the descent of the god of disobedience, but it can't be ruled out that it was caused by the god slayer, Alice added. The problem now is the identity of the hero with the divine sword and the demon king with the holy sword. It's easy to find the god slayer with the holy sword. After all, there are only 7 god slayers. But it's hard to say about the god of disobedience with the divine sword. In the myths, there are many gods who use the divine sword as their weapon, Alice said with a headache. Everyone pondered. After a moment, Wuming spoke. Let's not think about this for now. We can't figure it out now. At worst, we'll just deal with it when it comes. Wuming. Lord Wuming. Erica and Alice grumbled. That's enough. Even if the sky falls, there are tall people to hold it up. If you keep thinking so hard, you'll grow old. As he spoke, Wuming stood up. In a few days, Erica and I will send you back to England. You can think about these things then. After that, Wuming left the living room. After Wuming left, Erica sighed. He really isn't worried at all. Erica didn't know whether to be happy or distressed. Should she be happy that her king was confident or distressed that she was too ambitious? Alice smiled faintly and said, Isn't this good? As a king, you have to have confidence. This is also the charm of a king. That's because Your Highness Alice has a good mentality. You're the Princess Alice who fought a battle of wits with Black Prince Yarek and even drove him out of England in the end. That's all thanks to the help of Miss Erica's uncle, Lord Paul, said Alice. You're too serious, Your Highness Alice. You'd better go and get some rest. After all, mental exhaustion can't be eliminated. Erica stood up and was about to send Alice back to her room. I know, Miss Erica. I'll go by myself. By the way, Lord Wuming is really outstanding. You must seize the opportunity. After teasing Erica, Alice walked up the stairs and toward her room. Erica blushed but didn't say anything. Seize the opportunity. On the other side, Wuming sat at his desk and picked up the book that recorded the myths again. It seems that I have to finish recording the myths as soon as possible, or the sword of spiritual speech will become useless, said Wuming. After learning that the god of disobedience who caused the starless night was Athena, Wuming had thought that he had to record the myths in his spare time. In this world where the god of disobedience often appeared, he couldn't do anything without a store of knowledge. Compared to other authorities, although the sword of spiritual speech hadn't been upgraded or enhanced, it was still Wuming's trump card. After all, this sword of spiritual speech was too unfair. As long as one knew the stories of the gods, they could seal the gods' abilities. The warrior authority, which had been upgraded to a noble artifact, could naturally be used on heroic spirit followers. It was a great weapon. How could he not cherish it? Chapter 171. After spending a few days with Wuming, he had almost recorded all the mythical stories provided by Erica's organization, the Black Cross. Of course, it was all thanks to Kalis that he was able to complete it so quickly. Wuming lamented more than once about how right he had been to ask Zelik for the most advanced magic suit. This morning, Wuming, Erica, and Alice arrived at the Italian airport. Due to the fact that something so important had happened, Alice had to return to England. Wuming, on the other hand, had nothing else to do now. He was preparing to go to England with Alice and give her real body protection. Erica, on the other hand, was going to follow Wuming to England. What a joke. Even though Wuming was indeed much more harmless than the other god slayers, Erica was still worried about leaving Wuming alone somewhere else, so she naturally had to follow him. In fact, the reason why the Black Cross and Copper allowed Erica to become Wuming's follower and Wuming's knight was to monitor Wuming for fear that he would do something big. Even so, Wuming could still sense that Erica wasn't just monitoring him, but really wanted to become his knight. That was why Wuming kept her. As for why he didn't directly use teleportation magic, Wuming expressed his helplessness. The constitution of the God's layers was to repel all magic spells below the divine level, be it beneficial or harmful. Although teleportation magic spells that entered the body could work, it was obvious that teleportation magic couldn't be carried out in the body. This also meant that teleportation magic couldn't work on Wuming. Wuming had used a portal before, but that was because the portal was a channel established in two places and didn't have any effect on Wuming's body, so it could be used. It could be considered a trick. However, Wuming hadn't been to England in this world, so he couldn't use the portal. As a last resort, the three of them could only take a plane to England at the airport. On the plane, in the first-class cabin, Wuming complained, "I have to say, the Godslayer's physique is really troublesome sometimes." "Don't say that, Lord Wuming. Let's not talk about having a problematic physique. Even if it's something even worse, many people would still want to become Godslayers," Alice said with a smile. "Seriously, Wuming, you should be content. You're now one of the only 7 kings in the world," Erica complained. "That's true. Lord Wuming, you should be content." Alice and Erica both laughed. However, Wuming stared at Alice. "What? What's wrong, Lord Wuming? Why are you looking at me like that?" Alice blushed a little, her hands clasped together awkwardly. "It's nothing. I just feel that Alice is really beautiful now." Wuming smiled. "Huh? Why? Why do you say that, Lord Wuming?" Alice blushed slightly as she spoke with some shyness. "Because you're very similar to a friend of mine," Wuming said. "Rather than a friend, she's more like a confidant. Her smile is very beautiful. Every time I see her smiling face, my heart feels as if it's being cleansed," Wuming said with a nostalgic expression. Wuming thought of Jeanne d'Arc. Alice was just like Jeanne d'Arc. She was calm, peaceful, and beautiful. "Is that so? Then I'm honored," Alice said with a smile. As for why Wuming did not feel this way when he faced Erica, it was because he was reminded of Erica Ainsworth. Moreover, Erica gave Wuming the impression that she was a strategic-type knight. That's right, she was like a cunning vixen. Erica suddenly looked at Wuming. She narrowed her eyes and said, "I have a feeling that you're thinking of something rude, Wuming. How is that possible?" "It's just an illusion." Wuming smiled awkwardly. "Then, Lord Wuming, do you mind telling us the name of your friend?" Alice also wanted to know more about someone who could be called a friend by Wuming, who was both the god of disobedience and the god slayer. Erica also looked at Wuming curiously, hoping that Wuming could answer. Wuming naturally would not dampen their spirits. Therefore, Wuming said, "Her name is Jeanne." Jeanne? The two girls were somewhat confused. After all, this name sounded like the name of an ordinary girl. However, with Wuming's identity, could the girl he befriended, and even the girl who was his confidant, be an ordinary girl? Obviously, it was impossible. While the two girls were puzzled, Wuming added, "Also known as Jeanne d'Arc." Jeanne d'Arc? The two girls exclaimed in surprise. When Wuming said this, the two girls understood. Although the name Jeanne d'Arc sounded like an ordinary girl's name, if there was a famous Jeanne d'Arc, it would be her. Could it be the Saintess of France, Jeanne d'Arc? Erica asked. Alice also looked at Wuming with concern in her eyes. Wuming nodded with a smile and said, "Although she is France's Jeanne d'Arc, she has always denied that she is the Saintess. Ever since I led the people to war, from the moment I raised the flag, my hands have been stained with blood." This is what she once said to me. Because Jeanne d'Arc was canonized hundreds of years after she was executed, logically speaking, she should not have said such a thing. But after all, Wuming's origin was mysterious, so the two girls did not ask how Jeanne d'Arc knew that they were the Saintess. Then, with the feeling of the plane sinking, the three knew that they were about to arrive in England, so they did not discuss anything else. After getting off the plane, a tomboy walked towards the three of them. "Ah, looks like someone is here to pick me up." Alice smiled. The tomboy in front of Alice walked over and said to Wyrm, "You must be the king of disobedience, Lord Wyrm. I'm sorry for the trouble my young lady has caused you." Erikson bowed to Wyrm apologetically. "That's not the case. I actually quite like Alice," Wyrm said politely. Erikson seemed to have understood something, and his pupils shrank. Then he said, "Although I am very happy that Lord Wyrm and Miss Alice got married, now is not the time to celebrate. Marquis Wyrm is here." "Marquis Wyrm?" Alice and Erikson were shocked. Wyrm frowned and thought for a moment before saying to Erikson, "He's here to see me, right?" "See you? Lord Wyrm?" Erikson and Alice were both confused. After all, Wyrm and Wyrm did not have any direct contact, so logically speaking, the two of them should not be related. Alice thought of something and quickly said, "Could it be the Gorgon stone?" Chapter 172. It was an ordinary car. Erikson was in the driver's seat, Alice was in the passenger seat, and Wyrm and Erika were in the back. After a simple explanation of the situation, Erikson brought the three of them into the car. No one spoke in the car. Firstly, it was because of Marquis Wyrm. Secondly, it was because of the oppressive atmosphere. Going back to the topic Alice had mentioned earlier, Wyrm was here for the Gorgon stone. After all, with Marquis Wyrm's personality, it was very likely that he was here for the Gorgon stone, which could attract the attention of the god of disobedience. But, even though it is very likely that Wyrm is here for the Gorgon stone, it is also possible that he is here for me, Wyrm suddenly said. Wyrm looked around at Erika and Alice and continued, "You have to know that even though I am a god slayer, I am still a god of disobedience." Erika and Alice instantly understood when Wyrm said this. With Marquis Wyrm's personality, he would definitely find a god of disobedience to hunt, but he wouldn't reject a god slayer of his own kind. If there was an existence that was both a god slayer and a god of disobedience, then it is very likely that Marquis Wyrm will come looking for trouble with you, Erika said. Alice said with some concern, "Not to mention, the Gorgon stone is still in your hands, Lord Wyrm. Marquis Wyrm will definitely not mind taking it for himself. He wants to fight me and deal with Athena at the same time." "What an energetic old man," Wyrm said with some sarcasm. Erikson still maintained his duties as the driver and didn't say a word. It seemed that Erikson was still a little afraid of Wyrm. However, there was nothing that could be done about it. After all, in the eyes of the Sage Council of Greenwich, who specialized in the study of god slayers, all god slayers were terrifying. In any case, the enemy is already here. "I'm afraid we have no choice but to fight." Erika sighed. Alice, on the other hand, seemed a little worried. Wyrm said, "Don't worry, Alice. I will fight with Marquis Wyrm within my barrier. It won't affect the surrounding cities." Alice paused for a moment, then nodded. Although Wyrm said so, the worry in Alice's eyes was still there. Every time she looked at Wyrm, the worry in her eyes deepened. Because of the arrival of Marquis Wyrm, Erika and Wyrm decided not to go to Alice's house. At the request of Wyrm, Erikson stopped the car by the roadside. Wyrm and Erika got out of the car. Alice still looked worriedly at Wyrm and Erika. "Please be extremely careful. If possible, please do not cross swords with Marquis Wyrm. Please use words to resolve the issue." Although Wyrm didn't want to complain, Wyrm still had to say it in his heart. Is it possible for the god slayer to resolve the issue with words, "Don't worry"? "With me, Erika Blantley, who has inherited the Diable Dragon, my master will have nothing to worry about," Erika said as she patted her chest. Of course, this was only if she could guarantee that she wouldn't be at a disadvantage when talking with Marquis Wyrm. Alice nodded and said, "If it's Miss Erika, I can be a little more assured. Again, please be extremely careful." After that, Erikson sped away from the place even faster than before. "Am I that scary?" Wyrm pointed at himself and said. "You're the Demon King. It's natural for Miss Erika to be afraid of you." Erica giggled and covered her mouth. Wyrm shrugged helplessly. Then, the two of them came to a large building. This was the exclusive residence that the Sage Parliament of Greenwich had built for Marquis Wyrm after learning that he was coming. Wyrm and Erica looked at the roof and looked at each other. This should be the address that Erickson provided for Marquis Wyrm. Wyrm sighed. Speaking of which, the Sage Council sure has a lot of free time on their hands. They actually built such an exclusive residence for the Godslayer that's about to arrive. It's so grand that I feel bad about destroying it, Wyrm continued. Erica looked at Wyrm helplessly and said, that's because Marquis Wyrm is a veteran Godslayer who has been famous for a long time. Even the Sage Parliament of Greenwich, which specializes in investigating Godslayers, doesn't know the number of his powers and the specific abilities of his powers. Because the Sage Parliament of Greenwich was established in the middle of the 19th century, and Marquis Wyrm killed a Godslayer in the early 18th century, even the Sage Parliament, which specialized in Godslayers, didn't know about Marquis Wyrm's powers. You must be careful, my lord. Don't worry. Even so, I don't think I can lose. After all, I'm the master of the Red Devil, Diable Rouge, Wyrm joked. As expected of my lord. This is a master worthy of my service. The corners of Erica's mouth curled up, revealing a brilliant smile. Then, let's go. Let's meet this old man. With that, Wyrm and Erica stepped into the large building. At the top of the building, a tall and thin old man in a black trench coat was sitting on a throne. A magic array was engraved in the center of the hall, and a girl with long chestnut-colored hair and white ceremonial robes knelt in the center of the magic array. Beside Marquis Wyrm stood a mage who looked like a corpse and whose face couldn't be seen clearly. He held a crystal ball in his hand and placed it in front of Marquis Wyrm. Looking at the crystal ball in front of him, Marquis Wyrm's lips curled up into a smile. His emerald-like vertical pupils exuded a wolf-like gaze. Marquis Wyrm looked at the Caucasian girl with a silver-white ponytail who was half kneeling with her head lowered. The young girl was wearing a black military uniform with yellow edges. She had a blue-gray striped shawl draped over her shoulders, a matching short skirt, white knee-high socks, and brown high boots. Her silver-white hair was tied into a high ponytail with a thin blue thread. The young girl seemed to be full of exotic charm. Now is the time to show your strength. Don't disappoint me, Liliana Kranikar. Liliana lowered her head even more and said, Yes, master. I won't disappoint my lord. With that, the girl called Liliana left. It seemed like she was going to stop Wyrm and Erica. Marquis Wyrm looked at the crystal ball with joy and said, Let me see how you, the god of disobedience and the god slayer, can break through my servant. Let's use your strength to prove whether or not I need this witch. With that, Marquis Wyrm's wolf-like green eyes looked at the girl in ceremonial robes kneeling in the center of the magic array. God, the girl prayed. Chapter 173. As soon as they walked into the building, Wyrm and Erica were attacked by a large number of undead. After slashing the last undead with Reinhardt, Erica turned to Wyrm, who had dealt with some of the undead and was standing by the side, watching her on the phone. After seeing Erica destroy the last undead, Wyrm hung up the phone. Thank you for your hard work, Erica. Wyrm said. It's my honor to clear the way for Master. Erica said with a charming smile. That may be the case, but these undead are all at the level of Grand Knights. Nominally, they are the strongest fighting force below the God Slayer. Wyrm was right. Each of these materialized undead had the power of a Great Knight, which was the highest level below the God Slayer. Erica, who was only 16 years old, had reached the Great Knight level at this moment. Because of her loyalty to Wyrm, she received the title of Red Devil. The reason why she was said to be the strongest combat power below the God Slayer was that there was now an additional level, Paladin. The former Red Demon, Diable Rouge, Erica's uncle, Paul Brantley, who fought against the Black Prince Yarek with Alice, was promoted to a Paladin because of his deeds of fighting against the God Slayer. Because Paul's level had reached the highest Great Knight level, and above that was the God Slayer. Therefore, Greenwich's Sage Council updated a new level, Paladin. It could be said that the level of Paladin was specially set up for Paul. As for who else would resist the God-Slayer in the future, maybe they would also be promoted to Paladin. Because the theorem that humans could not defeat the God-Slayer had been deeply rooted in people's hearts, the level of Paladin was set up for those who were above Great Knight, but not the God-Slayer. Erica, who was only 16 years old, was able to reach the level of Great Knight. Coupled with her excellent character, it could be seen how good Erica was as a knight. Of course, but it would be better if you leave these people to me, Wyrm. I, Erica Brantley, will clear everything for my master. At this moment, Erica was like a proud lioness, full of pride. Yes, next time. I'm in a hurry now. I can't wait to see this old man. Afterward, Wyrm and Erica walked up the stairs leading to a higher floor. Was that a call from Salvatore just now? Erica asked Wyrm as they hurried along. Well, he's the only one who can know my phone number and call me. Wyrm looked a little tired at the moment and sighed. After being knocked unconscious by Wyrm, Salvatore took almost 3 days to wake up. The first thing Salvatore did after waking up was to call Wyrm. At this time, Wyrm came to Marquis Wyrm's building, so the scene of Erica cleaning up the undead appeared. That guy said something like, "You must be looking for trouble with old Master Warband now, so don't die. That old man is quite difficult to deal with, my good friend Wyrm. Speaking of which, when did I become his best friend?" Wyrm smiled calmly. It was obvious that he felt helpless towards this fellow. Erica smiled slightly, showing a charming smile at the corner of her mouth. Salvatore must have regarded you as a strong opponent. You should know that Salvatore is an idiot in all aspects except swordsmanship. Since he can remember your name, Wyrm, it means that he has regarded you as a strong opponent. In fact, Erica was right. Salvatore was knocked unconscious in a few moves. Although there was a certain degree of luck and the other party was not familiar with Wyrm's ability, Salvatore thought that a loss was a loss. As a result, Salvatore remembered Wyrm. I wanted to ask him if he knew about Marquis Warband's authority. As a result, this guy said, "How can I remember this kind of thing? Just hit him." I don't know what to say. Wyrm sighed again. I'm also a fool for counting on that idiot, Erica smiled. Wyrm is more like a human than the god of disobedience and the god slayer. Wyrm could not help but think of his previous life. If Wyrm was not picked up by the old dean, who knows what he would have become now. He might become even weirder because no one took care of him, and he would look down on humans completely. Because of this, Wyrm respected the old man who had passed away the most. Wyrm was indeed a problematic child. Wyrm could not despise humans now, thanks to the people Wyrm met. Wyrm's second most respected person and his skills mentor, Wyrm was naturally very important to Wyrm. Ireland, Britain, Uruk, Nasalik, France, and Toki City, Japan. Wyrm recalled the lands he had experienced and the various people he had met. Thinking of this, Wyrm was in a much better mood. Even the desire to fight with Marquis Warband had lessened a lot. That's because I have a bond. Looking at Wyrm, who was smiling particularly brightly, Erica was also stunned for a moment. Then, she smiled as well. Then, can I also be a part of it? Wyrm smiled and did not answer. Erica, on the other hand, saw the answer in Wyrm's eyes. For some reason, the other party did not stop them at all. Wyrm and Erica did not encounter any enemies along the way. In the end, when Wyrm and Erica were about to reach the top, a young girl walked out of the darkness. So it's you, Lily. It seemed to be someone Erica knew. Seeing that she had taken out a silver military knife, Wyrm did not say anything and continued to walk to the top. I'll leave it to you, Erica. Yes, my lord. Erica watched Wyrm leave before looking at Liliana. It's really fate to meet you here. I thought the rumors that you went to Marquis Warband's place were false. Liliana looked at Erica with a serious expression. Holding the silver military knife in her hand, she said, "There's no need to catch up. I've received Marquis Warband's order to stop you. Although I can't stop the advance of the King of Disobedience, I can stop your advance. As she spoke, Liliana's military knife began to glow. Is that so? Then let's try it. Erica held the thin sword and placed it in front of her. Then, she continued. It's time for a duel, Lionheart, Coeur de Lion. My wings, become the steel of the phantom blade, silver master craftsman, Il Maestro, grant me strength. As two prodigies of two Italian magic societies and the attendants of two kings, Erica and Liliana began to fight for their respective masters. At the top was an empty hall. In the center of the hall was a complicated and precise magic array. In the center sat a young girl with long chestnut-colored hair and ceremonial robes. In the center of the hall, a thin but shrewd old man sat there. Wu Ming slowly walked to this floor as if he was taking a leisurely stroll. In the darkness, Marquis Warbon's green vertical pupils exuded a cunning gaze. His gaze was fixed on Wu Ming. Wu Ming looked at Warban. Neither of them spoke. The atmosphere began to become tense. Only the chestnut-haired girl trembled under the pressure of the two kings. Chapter 174. After about 10 minutes of stalemate, Marquis Warban spoke first. I didn't expect the god of disobedience to become a god slayer. This is something I have never encountered in the past 300 years. Warban's voice sounded a bit old. He was an old man with a story, but Wu Ming didn't care about that. Now I'm a god slayer. Let's not talk about the identity of the god of disobedience. Warban, you came to England to find me, right? Wu Ming crossed his arms in front of his chest with a calm expression and a smile on his face. Of course, otherwise, I wouldn't have brought this witch all the way from Japan to England. I am very interested in the Gorgon stone and the fact that you are a god slayer, but I didn't expect you to come to me on your own accord. However, this saves me a lot of effort. The green light in Marquis Warbon's eyes shone even more brightly. Warban said and looked at the girl in the center of the magic formation. Wu Ming also looked at the witch. Generally speaking, the Yuan witch was the descendant of the god ancestor. Those girls would be given the highest level of Yuan witch, and generally, they would have the special skill spirit vision. Alice, who possessed spirit vision, was also known as the witch concubine. However, Alice was more like the witch Yuan, an extension of the witch concubine. These magi all relied on their own cultivation to obtain their spirit vision, so their spirit vision was much more powerful than those who were born magi. Just like Alice could see the future for a long time, the witch kneeling in the magic formation couldn't see the future too far away like Alice. But this kind of witch had other functions, such as summoning the god of disobedience. Do you want this witch to use Gorgon's stone to summon the god of disobedience? Wu Ming continued, judging from the level of this magic formation and the number of people who can summon the god of disobedience, once the summoning ritual is successful, this witch's life will be gone. Wu Ming's words caused Miss Witch, who was inside the magic array, to shudder. However, Wu Ming noticed her shudder. It seems that our Marquis Warban did not inform this young lady of the consequences. Of course. Marquis Warban stood up and continued, it's just a human. If it's broken, we can just replace it. The words of the Marquis caused Witch Yuan's heart to sink. She no longer had any hope of being rescued. After all, there were two demon kings here. Is that so, Wu Ming? Looks like you can't understand the meaning of human existence after becoming a god slayer, Wu Ming said sarcastically. Then, I'll take back my words. Wu Ming walked towards Miss Witch. Today, I'll fight you as the god of disobedience, Warban. Wu Ming stood in front of Miss Witch, protecting her. Then, Wu Ming looked at Wu Ming. Let me once again carry out my identity as the god of disobedience and protect the humans. Then, as the god slayer, I'll kill you who protects the humans. At this moment, both the god of disobedience and the god slayer burst forth with their magic power. A massive pillar of magic power materialized above Wu Ming and Warban, breaking through the ceiling. Miss Witch recovered from her despair and looked at the god of disobedience and the god slayer standing in front of her with a trace of doubt in her eyes. The undead king's nest of darkness, the land of the opposite sex, the home of absolute evil. Wyrm took out the staff of Anziurgan from the golden ripples and began to chant an incantation. Marquis Wyrm looked at Wyrm with interest and did not choose to stop him. Show thy 10-layered barrier, and seize the enemy who dares to provoke me. Anziurgan slammed the staff of Anziurgan on the ground. In an instant, Wyrm and Wyrm's vision turned white. When his eyes took in the scenery once more, Marquis Wyrm found himself on a sparkling, boundless ice plain. Oh, this is interesting, really interesting. The god of disobedience. Marquis Wyrm became excited and began to laugh loudly. Suddenly, a piercing cold wind began to blow. This feeling. I haven't felt this feeling of death for a long time. Ha 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 ha. Feeling the cold wind gradually blowing around him, Marquis Wyrm laughed happily. It was obvious that the cold wind could cause harm to him. For the bored Marquis Wyrm, that was exactly what he was looking for. Wyrm looked at Wyrm, who was covered in a layer of frost, but he did not show any complacency. As the one who controlled the inherent barrier, Nasaric's fifth ice layer appeared in front of Nasaric. Although the god's layers had extremely terrifying magic resistance, the essence of the inherent enchantment was a secret technique that allowed the spiritual world to invade the real world and drag the people around it into the spiritual world. Therefore, the inherent enchantment was effective even against the god's layers. Of course, in the eyes of Miko, Wyrm and Wyrm disappeared in an instant. The fifth layer of Nasalic had a passive effect that continuously froze the intruder, and that effect ignored the enemy's defense. When the Crusade team invaded Nasalic, because they had items that could resist this effect, or they relied on their level to directly pass the fifth layer did not stop many enemies. However, this didn't mean that the fifth level of Nasalic and the other areas of Nasalic were weak. The reason why a game was because it was challenging. As a hidden dungeon, it was extremely difficult to clear Nasalic. In addition, Nasalic was transformed into a guild encampment by the current members of Anziurgong, and its performance was enhanced a lot. The reason why the players were able to break through Nasalic was that the enemy had a large number of people, and the second reason was that the enemy had items that could resist the field effect. One must know that the game Yggdrasil was famous for its high degree of freedom, which led to many bug-level items and skills being countered by even more bug-like items and skills. That was why the game Yggdrasil attracted the players with such a high degree of freedom. However, many of the bug-level effects in Nasalic had become great weapons in other worlds without game items. The eternal frozen wind that blew on the ice field was such a negative bug. In short, Marquis Wyrm couldn't stand the damage. However, for the god Slayer's physique, that alone could not kill him. Come on. The unknown god of disobedience. Let me see your power. Marquis Wyrm roared and turned into a giant werewolf. Some of his hair fell from his body, and he turned into a 2-meter-tall grey wolf with rat fur. Awoo! The giant wolves rushed toward Wyrm, and their greedy mouths exuded a foul stench. Wyrm did not even look at them. He gently raised the staff of Anziurgong, and countless white flames instantly erupted on the giant wolves. In just a flash, Wyrm's wolves were all burned to death by Wyrm's flames. Chapter 175. What? Marquis Wyrm was very surprised. He knew that Roland was not someone to be messed with, so he specifically summoned those high-level Grand Knights, but Roland was able to destroy them all in an instant. What kind of magic is this? Marquis Wyrm roared from the giant werewolf. A magic trick that works is a good magic trick. Wyrm did not answer Marquis Wyrm's question. Instead, he smiled a little sarcastically. The staff of Anziurgan had an automatic attack function, and it was comparable to a world-class item with a large number of high-level spells. If the staff of Anziurgan didn't have a passive skill like the World's Blessing, it could be said to be a world-class item. Furthermore, the magic within the staff of Anziurgong that had been upgraded to a relic had also been upgraded, becoming an existence that could harm the gods. Wuming took the initiative to activate the staff of Anziurgen's skill, Holy Fire, which was a 9th-tier spell that dealt great damage to targets with negative justice value. Woben's giant werewolves did not look like they had positive justice value. Naturally, those werewolves were instantly killed. You're right, this is more interesting. Slowly, rain clouds began to gather in the sky within the inherent boundary. Within a few breaths, the rain clouds had completely gathered. Wuming could not help but frown. Nazarik's barrier was good, but it was too similar to the real world. So, how about this? Woben's body began to burst out a large amount of curse power, and dark purple lightning condensed in his mouth. With a howl, Wuming spat out the purple lightning from his mouth, and a huge purple lightning pillar rushed toward Wuming. The emerald on the staff of Anziurgen flickered, and a large number of green vines broke out of the ice and formed a super thick wooden shield in front of Wuming. Boom! Wuming's figure was buried by a large amount of dust caused by the impact of the lightning and the wooden shield. Wuming's figure instantly appeared on the other side of the smoke. It seems that using magic is too much of a bully for an old man like you who doesn't know magic. Do you need me to fight you without using magic? Wuming mocked. Humph. Stop joking. Even if your magic has reached the realm of gods, it can't do any significant damage to me. You're just saying that because you're at your wit's end. Marquis Oben roared. Tisk, Wuming spat unhappily. In fact, Marquis Wuming was right. Although the magic that Wuming had learned was useful, it was not very useful on the Godslayer who had extremely high resistance to curses. It was the same for the Lune runes. Although Silent Wonder could release the magic god's seal of the first rune, Silent Wonder did not think that the Grade A Noble Phantasm would be able to cause much damage to Marquis Warban. At the very least, he would be able to tear off a layer of Wyrban's skin. In that case, I'll use this sword. After saying that, Wuming put the staff of Ains Urgong back into the golden ripple that suddenly appeared, and then took out a silver-white long sword from it. X-Silver, that's the name of this sword. Wuming held the holy sword and said to Wuming. X-Silver. This is X-Silver. Marquis Oben was surprised. Wuming's eyes lit up. Does Marquis Oben also know about this sword? Marquis Oben said with some excitement, of course, it would be strange if I didn't know about this sword. I didn't expect the 7th Godslayer to be a British silver dragon. The rain clouds in the sky became denser, and the power of lightning contained in them became more powerful. Ha 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 ha. This trip is really worth it. Marquis Oben laughed and turned back into a human from his werewolf form. The strongest and most mysterious knight of the Knights of the Round Table, King Arthur's most trusted man, one of the only 2 beliefs of the Knights of the Round Table, the noble knight who incarnated into the legendary British silver dragon, Vilo Thranst. Marquis Oben was a little excited. Such a powerful enemy must be able to satisfy his boredom. When the world judged Wuming as the god of disobedience, Wuming thought of such a result. His own mythology was probably the evolution of what happened to him in the history of the M-shaped moon. And the mythology of the world of the Godslayers was made up by people, so it was not surprising that a god had several divine names, and even a god in other pantheons. Holding the X-Silver in both hands, Wuming said with a smile full of fighting spirit on his face, it doesn't feel good to be known by the later generations, but, Marquis Oben, come and fight me. Wuming's ruby-like eyes flickered. Come, Vilo Thranst. Marquis Oben roared angrily, and his body began to change. This time, the transformation was different from before, as dragon scales began to grow all over his body. Soon, Marquis Oben's transformation was complete, and what appeared in front of Wuming was a giant black dragon with ferocious dragon scales all over its body. Wuming estimated that the black dragon was about 60 meters long without its wings. I haven't slain a dragon before, you should feel honored, Oben. So, Wuming directly released his noble artifact. The stars hidden in the world. The X-Silver sword began to emit a white light, and the black dragon roared angrily, flapping its wings and rushing towards Wuming. The holy sword that can wipe out all evil. Looking at the charging Oben, Wuming held the sword with both hands. Cracks appeared on the sword, and an even more dazzling golden light burst out from it. Don't cover your light anymore. The silver sword was completely shattered, and a dazzling golden sword of light appeared. It kept floating, and the silver sword fragments attached to the golden sword of light. The black underworld flames that the black dragon spewed out were all blocked by the aurora pillar. Shine! The sword of light expanded and soared into the sky. The black dragon rushed in front of Wyrm, and swung its giant dragon claw with a dense aura of death. Silver meteor. Roar, roar, roar. The black dragon let out a miserable roar. Instantly, dazzling white starlight filled the 5th level, and it did not stop for a long time. In the outside world, Erica and Liliana were constantly fighting, and their swords were flying everywhere. However, one was flying in the sky, while the other was running on the ground. But anyone with a discerning eye could see that Erica was slightly at a disadvantage. Erica suddenly jumped back, and after a short pause, she said, "As expected of you, Lily." Liliana had the bloodline of the witch, and she had learned the long-lost, difficult flying magic, which was why she could fly in the sky. Don't talk nonsense. This is a battlefield. Liliana was a bit irritable. Erica continued, logically speaking, you shouldn't be the kind of person who would accept a brutal demon king like Marquis Oban. Liliana did not say anything. Instead, she looked at Erica with an irritated gaze. Could it be? Erica seemed to have thought of something, and she continued, because I'm loyal to Wyrm, your grandfather offered you to Marquis Oban out of jealousy. TSK, Liliana said unhappily, looking at Erica with an ugly expression. Talk is useless. Erica Browntree, keep fighting. Having said that, Liliana dashed toward Erica in a flash. Please wait a moment. Suddenly, an old but rather robust voice sounded. Chapter 176. Please wait a moment. An old and rather robust voice sounded. A white-haired old man in a butler's uniform appeared between Erica and Liliana. Mr. Sebastian. Why are you here? Erica asked in surprise. Erica, who had been with Wyrm, naturally knew that her master didn't contact Sebastian, so she was surprised by his sudden appearance. Who are you? Liliana flew back to the ceiling and looked at the old man who appeared silently between her and Erica. I'm Sebastian Dean, the butler of Lord Wyrm. Nice to meet you. Sebastian bowed to Liliana and then looked at Erica. Miss Erica, I'm here to support you on the orders of Lord Wyrm. Of course, this doesn't mean that Lord Wyrm doesn't believe in your abilities. It's just that Lord Wyrm chose to send me out as a precaution. After all, this was the temporary lair of the enemy's godslayers, so it was inevitable that accidents would happen. That was why Wyrm had Sebastian come to England from Italy. As for why Erica didn't see Wyrm contacting Sebastian, it was because everyone in Nazalek had the inherent ability to communicate mentally. Wyrm naturally contacted Sebastian without Erica knowing. Then, Sebastian said to the two of them, how about the two of you stop fighting for the time being? With your strength, both of you will only suffer in the end. Even if you say so, I, Liliana Kranikar, won't back down so easily. As a noble knight, Liliana wouldn't back down even if she knew the outcome of the battle. I can't pretend that I didn't hear that, Mr. Sebastian. I have a secret technique to deal with Lily. Erica was dissatisfied with Sebastian's words, but after all, Sebastian didn't know Erica well. Erica could win on her own. After all, Erica had something on Sebastian. The two girls retorted, unwilling to be outdone. Please calm down, Miss Erica, Miss Liliana. The battle between Lord Wyrm and Marquis Warban is over. Sebastian calmly said something that couldn't be calmed down. The two girls were shocked. Then, they hurriedly rushed to the top floor. Sebastian, on the other hand, began to walk downstairs. There's nothing else for me to do. Should I go back to Italy first or stay in England for a while? Sebastian rubbed his chin. I remember there was a shop selling biscuits that were very popular on the way here. Should I go and try it? Sebastian's figure gradually disappeared into the corridor as he spoke. At the top floor of the building, Wanli Furu was sitting in the center of the magic circle in fear. God, please protect me. Wanli Guyoli closed his eyes and clenched his fists, praying non-stop. Guyoli did not look at Marquis Wyrm, who was sitting on the throne and looking at the crystal ball beside him. She knew how terrifying the gods' lairs were, not to mention that the one on the throne was the most senior and most brutal of the 7 gods' lairs she had met 4 years ago. Originally, Guyoli had been prepared to sacrifice himself before the ceremony, but Marquis Oben's servant of death's cage shattered his resolve. That was the ability to turn the humans, divine beasts, demons, and artificial creatures with souls they had killed into living corpses. In other words, the living dead would be preserved in the world and become absolutely loyal servants. In this way, even if Wanli Guyusher were to sacrifice himself, he wouldn't be able to avoid being stabbed by Marquis Oben before committing suicide. In the end, he would still become Marquis Oben's servant. Thus, as if he had accepted his fate, Yoritani accepted Marquis Wyrm's request and accepted the fate of being the only supporter of the ritual to summon the god of disobedience. Seeing Miss Liliana being sent out by Marquis Wyrm, Wanli knew that the other king had arrived. It seems like the summoning god relic is in the king's hands. Wanli Guyoli thought to herself. She then shook her head. This had nothing to do with a witch like her who had no right to speak. At most, she would interact with the king later. Soon, the other king arrived before Marquis Wyrm. Looks like a young king. Wanli Guyoli stopped looking after glancing at the king. One had to know that kings were brutal. Perhaps the king would punish him for looking at the king a few more times. While the 2 kings were talking, Wanli Guyoli heard that Liliana had been killed by the invading king. Miss Liliana, the kind-hearted Wanli Guyoli was a little sad. After all, the king had helped him 4 years ago. Do I look like a brutal person to you, Marquis Wyrm? However, the new king said. Is Miss Liliana all right? Wanli Guyoli was secretly relieved when he thought about this. Subsequently, the intense battle that Wanli Guyoli expected did not happen. Subsequently, the new king told Wanli Guyoli the truth that he would die after summoning the god of disobedience alone. Wanli Guyoli was shocked. After all, Marquis Wyrm did not tell him about this. Wanli Guyoli had lost all hope. He would die no matter what in front of the 2 kings. And yet, the new king was standing in front of him. Then, I take back what I said earlier. Today, I'll fight you as the god of disobedience, Wyrm. The god of disobedience? Wanli Guyoli seemed to have heard something incredible. Let me carry out my identity as the god of disobedience again. I'll protect the humans and this witch. Protect me? Wanli Guyoli was doubtful. She could not believe that the Devil King, the God Slayer, would protect a witch like her. After the 2 kings unleashed their powerful devil powers, the new king took out a strange dark scepter. The moment he chanted an incantation, the 2 kings seemed to have been sucked into something and disappeared into thin air. Wanli Guyoli did not think of running away. Even if she did not know where she would go. Moreover, the Devil King would definitely catch her again. The 2 kings must be fighting in some unknown place. For some reason, Wanli Guyoli hoped that the new king would win more than Marquis Wyrm. Perhaps it was because of the words, protect this witch, Wanli Guyoli thought. God, please protect me. Then, Wanli Guyoli returned to the state where she clasped her hands and closed her eyes in prayer. However, compared to the previous prayers to the gods, this prayer was more specific. Darkness shrouded the hall. Only the ritual fire was left, shining in the darkness, protecting the witch who was praying to the gods. Chapter 177. Erica and Liliana ran to the top floor and saw that the hall was not damaged at all, if the ceiling was missing. Wuming was currently carrying 1,000-mile Furu in a princess carry. Erica and Liliana were shocked by the fact that the hall wasn't damaged much. Seeing Erica and Liliana's arrival, Wyrm quickly smiled and greeted them. "Oh, I won." Erica breathed a sigh of relief, while Liliana had an ugly expression on her face. Where did Marquis Wyrm go, and why did Wanli Furu faint? It all started a few minutes ago. Wyrm injured Marquis Wyrm, who turned into a black dragon, with his noble phantasm, Silver Meteor. No, it should be said that he killed him once. Meteor Silver Radiance, Silver Meteor, Level, EX Type, Evil Noble Phantasm Distance. Maximum Catch. This was a treasure created by the planet's suppression. Silver Meteor, which was truly freed from the restriction, had the effect of judging the enemy as evil. As long as the enemy was the master's enemy, the person who must be defeated, and so on, the holy sword would mark it with the evil attribute. The target of the judgment was both a person and an object, and even concepts such as space and time could be included in the judgment. Wyrm didn't even need to mark Marquis Wyrm with the evil attribute. Marquis Wyrm, who didn't take human life seriously, had already been judged as evil by Silver Meteor. Wyrm himself didn't slay a dragon, and Silver didn't have a similar legend, so it couldn't cause additional damage to the dragon. However, Wyrm had Silver Meteor's judgment, coupled with Wyrm's large-scale magic supply, he was able to kill Wyrm. One should know that the relic Silver Meteor was one of Wyrm's trump cards. If it could not defeat the God Slayer, it would be a disgrace to the sacred sword Silver. However, Wyrm's barrier, Nazalik's fifth layer, was completely destroyed by Wyrm's noble phantasm. Marquis Wyrm seemed to have the power of resurrection. The moment the fixed boundary was broken, Marquis Wyrm released a powerful burst of mana. Then, Marquis Wyrm and Marquis Wyrm returned to the hall. As soon as they met, Marquis Wyrm clutched his heart weakly. "Damn it! You win this time, remember this." Villo there answered. With that, Marquis Wyrm turned into a strong gust of wind and left the hall without a ceiling. Phew! Wyrm let out a long sigh and returned the Silver to the golden ripple. In fact, as the most senior God Slayer, if Marquis Wyrm had not gotten addicted to the fight, he would have been able to fight Wyrm dozens of times, regardless of the final outcome. After Marquis Wyrm was infected by the God Slayer's fighting frenzy, he directly used his body to resist Wyrm's noble phantasm. The result was failure and even death. That also proved that the God Slayers were a group of problematic children. That was why humans could not ignore the God Slayers and serve them as kings. After Marquis Wyrm left, Wyrm looked at Wanli Guyoli in the center of the magic circle. As a result, he found that Wanli Guyoli had fainted. It seemed that when Wyrm broke the fixed boundary, a small part of the residual power spread to Wanli Guyoli, who was kneeling in the magic circle, and knocked him out. "Is it my fault again?" Wyrm scratched the back of his head and said awkwardly. Ever since he became a God Slayer, he liked fighting more and more, especially when it was easy to use too much power in battle. For example, Silent Wonder could weaken the magic attack of the Meteor Silver Splendor when it was about to break through his inherent barrier. That way, he might be able to ensure that Guyoli, who was outside, would not be knocked unconscious by the shockwaves. However, Wyrm, who was in the mood to fight, did not care about that. Instead, he increased the power of Silver Meteor. Naturally, Wanli Guyoli was knocked out. Fortunately, we managed to control it at the last moment. Not just Miss Witch, even Erica, and the others in this building would have been affected. Wyrm wiped the non-existent cold sweat off his forehead. It seemed that the God Slayer was the Demon King for some reason. Wyrm walked to Wanli Guyoli's side and began to check if he had something on his hand. Then, Wyrm drew runes out of thin air, and several lune runes representing healing, cleansing, and holy attached to Wanli Guyoli's body. Then, Wyrm put one hand under Wanli Guyoli's armpit and the other hand under Wanli Guyoli's legs, and picked him up in a princess carry. At this time, Erica and Liliana arrived just in time. This was the scene that Erica and Liliana had seen just now. Neither of the two girls spoke, which made Wyrm feel awkward. At this moment, for some reason, Wyrm felt that he was a pervert who wanted to hold the unconscious girl in his arms. In order to avoid misunderstanding between the two girls, Wyrm said with a smile, "Yo, I won." Outside the building, Erickson, who was using the telescopic magic, stopped the magic and called Alice. "Miss Alice, it seems that Lord Wyrm won." After sending Alice home, Erickson left and asked Erickson to come here to observe and report the result to Alice. Erickson, on the other hand, could not refuse his master's request. After setting up more barriers, Erickson unhurriedly came to a commanding height near the building, where he observed the abnormality of the building with a telescope. "Really? Thank you, Erickson. Come back first." Alice's unique sweet voice came from the other end of the phone, but it was a little weak. "Yes, Miss Alice." After that, Erickson quickly left the place as if he was fleeing. It seemed that the two god slayers here really frightened Erickson. Although Erickson was shocked that the battle between the two kings did not destroy the surroundings, even the building that had been turned into a battlefield, he would never be stingy with his speed when it was time to leave. In a luxurious aristocratic house, in a gorgeous room, Alice sat on the bed in her pajamas with a sickly flush on her face. Alice weakly placed the phone on the small table beside her and laid down on the bed. Is the side effect of using spirit vision again? Alice covered herself with the quilt and closed her eyes in pain. "Please come quickly, Lord Wyrm." Chapter 178. The next day, the staff of the Greenwich Sage Parliament started to get busy again. Wyrm's arrival drove Marquis Oban away. Although there was no large-scale damage, the building built for Marquis Oban could no longer be used. Putting aside the fierce fight between Erica and Liliana in the building, the aftermath of Silent Wonder's noble phantasm had destroyed the supporting beams of the building. Fortunately, Silent Wonder had used the rune that she used to stabilize the building in time when she fought Berserker, the heroic spirit materialized by the rank card. Otherwise, the building would have disappeared on the same day. By the way, because Wyrm and Marquis Oban did not cause much damage, and Marquis Oban's building was not in a bustling area, the Greenwich Sage Parliament simply used the building's shoddy construction as a cover and successfully covered it up without causing a commotion. In addition to covering up the truth, the Greenwich Sage Parliament also had to prepare a residence for the remaining God Slayer, namely Wyrm. If the king were to casually stay in a hotel, not to mention whether Wyrm would mind, if the other God Slayers found out, the Greenwich Sage Parliament would probably cease to exist. Marquis Oban did not care. After all, he had just been injured after the fight with Wyrm. However, Bishop Luo Hao from the east would definitely come knocking on his door. Among the God Slayers, the two most arrogant God Slayers were Marquis Oban and Bishop Luo Hao, who were the two most senior God Slayers. Therefore, the Greenwich Sage Parliament started to get busy again building a residence for Wyrm. After that, Wyrm said, "I'll just stay at Alice's place." Everyone was stunned. Under the strange gazes of almost all the magicians, Wyrm and Erica moved to Alice's place with Guyoli. At a certain moment, Wyrm sat peacefully on the sofa of a mansion, drinking a cup of tea. Erickson stood behind Wyrm in a panic. After a moment, Wyrm spoke. "Are you that worried about me, Miss Erickson?" Wyrm turned his head and glanced at Erickson, who was in a suit. How could that be?" "Your Majesty, I have no intention of belittling you." Erickson hurriedly knelt down on one knee. Wyrm sighed helplessly. "I won't do anything to Alice. Don't worry." Wyrm said so because a few days ago, Wyrm directly entered Alice's boudoir while Erickson was weeping in despair and fear. After that, Wyrm directly entered Alice's boudoir, closed the door and stayed there for a few hours. When a man who could be said to be the most powerful man and a very beautiful woman stayed in the same room for a few hours, the result was naturally obvious. Somehow, the news leaked, and almost the entire magic world knew that Wyrm, the seventh God Slayer, the King of Disobedience, and Princess Alice, the daughter of Duke Goding and the White Witch, were married. That lord is really swift and decisive. This was the general impression that all the magicians had of Wyrm, the God Slayer. But in fact, Wyrm entered Alice's room only to protect her. Of course, In order to increase efficiency, Wyrm chose not to protect her forehead this time, but to deepen their relationship more intimately. Of course, this was also because Alice didn't reject it, so Silent Wonder acted this way. And Erica, who knew that this was a serious matter, didn't stop Wyrm. However, she didn't look too happy. After all, there was no saying that the cow that came first would eat the grass later. Ahem. Back to the topic. After Wyrm protected Alice for a long time and kissed Wyrm for a long time, Alice's cheeks were abnormally red, and then Alice fell asleep because her body received a lot of energy. So, Wyrm sat by Alice's bed, took out the Nameless Spellbook from Dragonist, and read it. After all, the spells in the Nameless Spellbook were endless. Even Wyrm, as its owner, couldn't master all of them. He could only search for a certain spell when he needed it. In this way, Wyrm stayed in Alice's room for a few hours, which led to the wrong relationship between Wyrm and Alice being spread all over the magic world. Thinking of Alice's flushed face when she woke up a few hours later, Wyrm's lips curled up into a smile. It could be said that it was precisely because Alice fell asleep while kissing and blushed that Erickson was more convinced of their relationship. Later, on the grounds that, although the two of you are close, it's still inappropriate to do things during the day, she was actually afraid that her master would be taken advantage of again, so she stayed beside Wyrm to supervise him. Seeing Erickson hurriedly kneeling on one knee, Wyrm was playful. Since you already know my relationship with Alice, why should I be stingy for a while? Huh? Erickson raised her head in a panic and looked at Wyrm. In other words, I can enjoy all this with Alice at night, Miss Erickson. Wyrm squinted his eyes and smiled ambiguously. Although her face was a little flushed, Erickson was indeed Alice's personal servant. She could still maintain a calm expression. Okay, I'll stop teasing you. Wyrm looked at Erickson, whose expression didn't change much, and said a little disinterestedly. By the way, Alice and the others should be back soon. Wyrm looked at the time and calculated that Alice and the others who went shopping should be back soon. Because of Wyrm's protection, Alice's body became like a normal person. This was great news for Alice, who couldn't leave the mansion at will and could only use her ghost body. Alice, who was very happy, gracefully kissed Wyrm, and then happily went shopping with Erica. He could only say, "Speak of the devil." As soon as Wyrm finished his words, the door of the house was opened. Alice and Erica came in, dressed with dignity and grace. How was it? Did you have fun shopping? Although he asked this question, Wyrm still saw the answer in Alice's eyes. Well, thank you very much, Master Wyrm. Alice bowed to Wyrm again. There's no need. Now that everyone knows about our relationship, why are you still being so polite? Wyrm teased. That's true. Then, please take care of me in the future, Master Wyrm. Alice smiled happily. Erickson's face became even more distressed. At this moment, she was sad for her master who was involved with the God Slayer. There would be a lot of dangerous things in the future. Ahem, my king, Mariguchi Yuri has been safely sent back to Japan. The History Editing Committee of the local magic association has successfully protected him. Erica interrupted the strange atmosphere between Alice and Wyrm. Chapter 179. Seeing that they were getting down to business, Wyrm and Alice did not continue. Facing two kings at the same time, that witch must be scared. Alice sat on the sofa, and Erickson immediately poured a cup of black tea for Alice. Erickson also sat down and continued. I wasn't scared. The main point is that I heard the report from the escorts. When Wanli Gu woke up, he asked where our king went. It seems that our king has once again captured the heart of a young girl. Erickson looked at Wyrm with a teasing look. Wyrm smiled indifferently. Let's stop joking. How is Marquis Woban now? According to the intelligence of the Sage Parliament, the Marquis immediately returned to his base in the Balkans after the battle with you, and then there was no news of him. Alice put down the teacup, put her hands on her lower abdomen, and looked at Wyrm elegantly. He used the resurrection authority, so he should not be able to move for a while. Let's not worry about him for now. Wuming crossed his arms and thought for a moment. After all, the restrictions of the Resurrection Authority were not so easy to break. Even Wuming's vitality, incarnation, which had become a noble phantasm, had restrictions that prevented it from being used for a period of time after the resurrection. After all, it was a complete resurrection, and unlike Marquis Wuming's resurrection, Wuming would recover to his full state after the resurrection. Let's leave it at that for now. Wuming looked around at everyone and stood up. I've decided to leave England tomorrow and go to Japan. Wuming's sudden departure made Alice a little worried. Are you going to verify the contents of the spirit vision? To be honest, Alice was a little worried. After all, the scene she saw was too terrifying. The earth cracked, the sea withered, the volcanoes were ready to erupt, and the sky was filled with smoke and dust. The Divine Sword Envoy and the Divine Sword Envoy were constantly fighting, and destruction was coming. Wuming was not worried. He used the divine aura and touched Alice's head. Don't worry, I'll take care of everything. Affected by the holy aura, Alice's heart instantly calmed down. Don't worry, Your Highness Alice. As the first knight of Wuming, I'll keep an eye on the king and make sure he doesn't run off, Erica comforted her. Then I'll be counting on you, Miss Erica. Alice smiled sweetly. Wuming felt a little helpless. She spoke as if it was easy for him to create chaos. But it was clear that the Godslayers had the constitution to create trouble. That night, almost everyone was asleep, including Wuming. Suddenly, Wuming opened his eyes and looked in front of him. Aloli was lying on Wuming's body. What are you doing here? Wuming was puzzled when he saw Athena's black pupils. However, Wuming did not see any fighting spirit in Athena's eyes, so he did not put up any defensive measures. No matter what, they were both gods of disobedience in principle, and both of them were related to the dragon snake god. In fact, there was no need for them to fight to the death. To be able to wake up the moment I arrived, it seems that you haven't fallen during this period of time, my compatriot. Athena's magnetic voice reached Wuming's ears. Her snake-like eyes revealed a satisfied look of approval. Wuming sat up unhurriedly and hugged Athena, who was still sitting on his body. Wuming was not surprised that Athena could enter the mansion with multiple barriers. After all, Athena was known as the goddess of wisdom. How could a mere modern magic barrier stop Athena? Why did you suddenly come to me? Are you still chasing after the Gorgon stone? Wuming said rather casually and yawned halfway. For some reason, Wuming felt a sense of familiarity with Athena, so he did not fight with her like last time. Athena did not seem to care about being hugged by Wuming. To be exact, she enjoyed Wuming's embrace. Along the way, Athena shifted her body to make herself more comfortable. Athena then looked into Wuming's eyes seriously and said, "Of course, I'm chasing after the snake. Of course I've been chasing after the snake, but I didn't sense the snake's presence this time." Athena was right. The aura of the Gorgon stone had indeed disappeared. To be exact, it was sealed by Wuming. Since Athena retreated, Wuming knew that he would not be able to get in touch with her for the time being. A powerful god relic like the Gorgon stone would not only attract Athena, but Marquis Wyrm as well. Therefore, Wuming used the advanced sealing spell in the Nameless Spellbook and multiple Lune runes to completely seal the aura of the Gorgon stone. After hearing Athena's words, Wuming extended his hand into the golden ripples that appeared in the air and took out a carved stone that did not contain any mana. What do you think? It took me a lot of effort to seal the Gorgon stone. In addition to that, I placed it in my authority space. You didn't even notice it when you were so close to it. Wuming smiled proudly. Athena looked at Wuming with admiration. I didn't expect you to have mastered so many powerful sealing spells. You're really something, Vilo-Theranced. Athena could feel the faint connection from the Gorgon stone. She could not help but touch the Gorgon stone. Moreover, aren't you afraid that I'll take it away from you? Athena placed her hand on the Gorgon stone with a fierce look in her eyes. Wuming smiled, then he patted Athena's head and said, I can see that you don't have any intention of snatching it. And even if you do, I'm confident that I'll be able to take it back after you've done so. Athena smiled and patted Athena's head. Athena could not help but smile when she saw Wu Ming's confident expression. She touched Wu Ming's face and said, as expected of the warrior I've chosen. My compatriot and fellow member of the Draconic Serpent. Looking at your confident smile, even I want to have a good fight with you. Athena was known as the goddess of war, so it was not surprising that she would be easily provoked. Seeing the flames of war in Athena's eyes, Wu Ming hurriedly interrupted her. By the way, what are you doing here? Fortunately, Athena's fighting spirit had yet to take shape. After hearing Wu Ming's doubts, Athena calmed down. I have something I need your help with. I'll take you to a place. Athena jumped down from Wu Ming's bed, grabbed Wu Ming's hand, and jumped out of the window with Wu Ming. Just like that, Wu Ming, one of the only 7 god slayers in the world and one of the 7 kings, ran away with a disobedient god. After Alice and Erica found Wu Ming, they criticized him more than once, but every time Wu Ming laughed it off. Of course, this was a story for another day. Chapter 180. After Athena pulled Wu Ming out of Alice's house, Wu Ming and Athena took a small sailboat that Athena got from nowhere. The sailboat was more like a large surfboard with a sail, so it was euphemistically called a sailboat. After getting on the sailboat, the wind began to blow, and the sailboat began to move quickly in a certain direction. This is quite interesting, is this your ability? Wu Ming asked with interest. This is the guidance of the wind. Athena stood at the front of the sailboat, looking at the endless sea. Wu Ming rolled his eyes, then continued. Where are we going? Athena answered without turning her head, Naples. Naples was the largest city in southern Italy, the capital of Campania and the province of Naples. It was most famous for Mount Vesuvius, known as the most dangerous active volcano in Europe. Thinking about the information about Naples in his mind, Silent Wonder suddenly remembered something. I remember, it seems that Gorgon's stone was excavated in Naples. Wu Ming didn't believe that it had nothing to do with Gorgon's stone. Wu Ming looked at Athena and motioned her to explain. Athena turned her head and smiled wickedly. As expected of the warrior I like, even your brain is so smart. You and I are of the same generation, but I always feel that you're talking to the younger generation. Wu Ming shook his head. Athena ignored Wu Ming's complaint and continued. Naples has draconic snake's aura, and steel will definitely appear there. Steel? Wu Ming was a little confused. Although Erica once provided Wu Ming with information about steel, it was still too little, so Wu Ming didn't know much about Steel God. Seeing Wu Ming's doubts about his natural enemy, Athena looked at Wu Ming with disappointment. Although I don't know why you forgot about your natural enemy, let me teach you a lesson. Athena then told Wu Ming about Steel God. Steel God was a metaphor for the smelting process of steel and the legend that he himself was made of steel, as well as the god of disobedience who killed Draconic Snake. Generally speaking, as long as it was a hero god, they would have Steel God's characteristics. But it wasn't absolute. Generally speaking, the god of steel referred to the hero god, but most of the hero gods and non-hero gods with steel characteristics usually got their steel characteristics from the deeds of slaying dragon serpent. In that case, their steel characteristics would be particularly rare. Steel God's characteristics should have steel's smelting process and the legend that he himself was made of steel. The god of disobedience. Steel God and the God Slayer were natural enemies. As long as they fought each other, Steel God would become stronger, and the God Slayer would become fanatical and warlike. In addition, Steel God and the god of disobedience related to Draconic Snake were also natural enemies. In other words, Athena, who pursued Gorgon's stone, the snake, and Wu Ming, the knight of the Round Table, Villothorancid, were natural enemies of Steel God. Wu Ming raised his eyebrows. Do you mean you want me to deal with Steel God? Or do you want to fight with me? However, for those god of disobedience, there was no such thing as a gang fight. How is that possible? Although I'm not that weak without Snake, I'm still a little weak, so I'm not your opponent. Athena smiled slyly. Wu Ming was now convinced that Athena must have found out about his identity as the god of disobedience, and that's why she came to him. Previously, Wu Ming didn't reject Wu Ming. Now, Wu Ming understood that this was like a cousin, younger cousin, and a cousin, older cousin. Even if they were cousins, they were still related. Of course, Wu Ming knew what Athena meant. With Wu Ming, the god of disobedience with a high draconic attribute, the god of steel in the present world would definitely come looking for him. Wu Ming believed that the god of disobedience with steel attribute would not let him go, no matter what. Athena, who lacked a snake, or the draconic serpent and the god slayer, would not let him go. But, that's not bad. I haven't seen the god of steel yet. This is a good opportunity to see him. Wu Ming's mouth raised again. Athena looked at his smile and smiled. Then Athena flew to Wu Ming and gently stroked Wu Ming's face. This concubine likes your unruly smile. It's incomparably delightful. Seeing the fighting spirit in Athena's eyes again, Wu Ming quickly changed the topic. Ahem. Is there any god relic in Naples? After all, in order to make the god of steel appear, he needed draconic snake, but Athena only said that there was a draconic snake's aura, which meant that there was no god of disobedience with draconic snake attribute, so it was very likely that there was a god relic related to draconic snake. Yes, there is a god relic of Mother Earth there. Athena said. Mother Earth? Wu Ming remembered the information provided by Erica, which contained information about Mother Earth. Mother Earth, also known as Mother Earth or Mother Earth, referred to the goddess who specialized in fertility and symbolized the grace of the earth. However, not all goddesses in this category could be called Mother Earth. In myths around the world, the gods who could be classified as Mother Earth were powerful masters of maternal power in their mythological system. But in later myths, a large number of Mother Earth were belittled as the wife, sister, or daughter of a male god, or died directly. Take Huaxia as an example. Goddess Hutu, one of the 12 witch ancestors, was a very pure Mother Earth. Hutu incarnated into the 6 paths of reincarnation and died directly. And the belittled Mother Earth, if Wu Ming remembered correctly, Athena seemed to be one too. This also explained why Athena in the present world was incomplete, because after she was belittled, the divinity of Mother Earth was split into Gorgon stone. With that thought in mind, Wu Ming looked at Athena. What are you trying to say with that look in your eyes? Athena said calmly. Nothing, I just thought of something interesting. Wu Ming smiled casually and stopped thinking about it. After all, Athena could be said to be a friend now, not an enemy, so there was no need to consider fighting her. Athena seemed to have seen through Wu Ming's thoughts, so she said, Don't be happy too early. I'll fight you sooner or later. This is a war you started, so you have to be responsible for extinguishing it. Wu Ming, who had just relaxed, froze again. We're here. Wu Ming snapped back to his senses and looked in Athena's direction. What entered his sight was a huge port. Chapter 181. The bustling port during the day has become quiet at this moment. After landing on the shore, Wu Ming and Athena headed in a certain direction, which seemed to be a mining mountain. You can feel it, right? Athena asked. Wu Ming nodded and looked in the direction where the two were walking. This magical power is like Gorgon stone that has been completely unsealed. However, at that moment, Wu Ming also felt another magical power, which he was very familiar with. This is. If I remember correctly, this is Salvatore's power. Wu Ming said so and continued to look in the direction he was looking at before. That's right. There's another enemy of mine here, Athena said as she looked at a certain spot on the mountain. Wu Ming felt the power that Salvatore used during the battle, the silver arm that could split everything. The Sage Council of Greenwich called it, Silver Arm the Ripper. Wu Ming had a bad feeling. If that idiot is here, it seems that this battle with the God of Steel is inevitable. As soon as Wu Ming finished speaking, a huge magical power rose from somewhere in the mountain, and a huge beam of light illuminated the entire port of Naples. Then, in the eyes of Wu Ming and Athena, the huge magical power began to condense, and finally formed a huge western dragon. The draconic snake has appeared, and the god of steel should be nearby. Athena explained to Wyrm. I see. Let's hurry up and deal with the god of steel. Although I'm not human and don't need to sleep, I can't change my habit. Wyrm yawned and then ran in the direction of the dragon. Athena, on the other hand, watched as Wyrm left. She spread her owl wings and followed after him. At the top of Mount Vesuvius, the crater. A young Caucasian man with blonde hair stood at the crater of the volcano. He was dressed in an elegant white suit and looked down at the giant dragon flying above Naples. So that's how it is, the god of steel appeared because of the serpent. After saying that, the man jumped. Nay! A white-winged Pegasus flew over from nowhere, and the man jumped on the Pegasus' back. Nay! The Pegasus flew toward the dragon with the man on its back. At that moment, the blonde man and Wyrm rushed toward the dragon serpent at the same time. The dark green dragon flapped its wings and soared into the sky. Its wild eyes scanned the surroundings as if it was curious about the surrounding buildings. At that moment, the blonde man came to the dragon's head. Evil dragon, today, I, the hero, Perseus, will kill you. Like a hero slaughtering an evil dragon in a fairy tale, Perseus condensed a long blade in his hand and charged towards the giant dragon. Roar! The dragon was unwilling to be outdone. After roaring, it rushed toward Perseus. However, with the god of steel's attribute, the dragon was bound to be at a disadvantage against Perseus. Not to mention, the dragon was just a divine beast, while Perseus was a god of steel. Roar! A huge saber light flashed, and the dragon roared in pain. A bone-revealing wound appeared on its body, and blood flowed out. The dragon roared and fell to the ground, making a loud noise. Roar! Roar! The giant dragon let out a sorrowful cry as if it had foreseen its end. Its cry was very tragic. However, the god of steel would not let it go. Today, the hero, Perseus, will kill the dragon again. Perseus said very confidently, then raised the long sword in his hand and slashed toward the dragon. Please wait a minute. A girl's voice came. Perseus stopped what he was doing and turned around when he heard the melodious voice of a young girl. What a beautiful girl. This is very consistent with the story of killing the dragon to save the princess. Perseus smiled happily. If Wyrm was here, he would definitely recognize the girl in front of Perseus. She was Liliana Kranikar, who left alone after Marquis Warban was defeated. Great Lord, please show mercy. This dragon is condensed from the magical power of the Neapolitan spiritual vein. If you kill it, it will cause irreversible damage to the Neapolitan spiritual vein. Liliana knelt on one knee and looked at Perseus with a serious face, hoping that the god could show mercy. However, since Perseus had appeared as the god of disobedience, he would not listen to the opinions of humans. How can that be, young man? This is a dragon, an existence that must be killed. I have made up my mind. Back down, girl. With that said, Perseus raised his long saber again and slashed at the dragon. Swoosh, the sword flashed, and one of the dragon's wings was cut off by Perseus. Roar! The dragon howled weakly. Please wait a minute. Liliana rushed to Perseus. I said, back down, girl. With Perseus's words, there was also a magical impact that repelled Liliana. Liliana was sent flying, but she did not feel the coldness of the ground. Then, Liliana opened her closed eyes. Yo, Miss Liliana. Wyrm held Liliana and stood steadily on the ground. I'm sorry, King. Liliana reacted as if she had just reacted. She quickly broke free from the arms of Wyrm and others and knelt on one knee to salute Wyrm. Perseus looked at Wyrm with a smile. Oh, you're both my compatriot and my mortal enemy. How interesting. My compatriot refers to the god of disobedience and steel, and my old enemy refers to the god Slayer who has the nature of draconic snake. Perseus flicked the bloodstains on his long saber and continued. You are obviously a mixture of draconic snake and steel, but you can clearly distinguish the aura of draconic snake and steel. Both the god of disobedience and the god slayer, both draconic snake and steel, it seems that I have met a big shot, ha 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 ha. Perseus was excited. Wyrm raised his eyebrows and thought. Do I still have steel's aura? Why didn't Athena tell me? Wyrm, who was not a native of this world, could not accurately distinguish the aura of draconic snake and steel, not to mention that the identity of draconic snake and steel was imposed on Wyrm by this world. However, thinking about it carefully, Villotharanseed did indeed have the dual attributes of steel and draconic snake. First, the mysterious identity of the legendary dragon, it could be said that Villotharanseed was the god of draconic snake. Second, Villotharanseed did have the legend of forging X-silver, and Villo also had a close relationship with King Arthur, who was also steel and draconic snake, so it was not wrong for him to have steel's attribute. But even if it was not draconic snake and steel, would Wyrm not care about it? The answer was no. Who cares? With that thought in mind, Wyrm said to Perseus, I'm really sorry. Due to the willful request of a certain goddess, I have no choice but to come and fight you. With that said, Wyrm pointed at the gigantic dragon behind him who looked like a trembling puppy. Huh? A certain goddess? Liliana was a little surprised. At this time, Athena flew in front of the dragon. You are really rude, god of steel. Athena touched the dragon, and then the dragon turned into pure energy and was injected into Athena's body. So that's how it is, the goddess of earth and draconic snake's hero, what a good combination. Perseus smiled elegantly. So, I have to deal with two opponents this time. Although he was surrounded, Perseus still said arrogantly. How can that be? Of course, it's my hero who will fight you. I'm looking forward to this duel. Athena smiled slyly. Wyrm shrugged his shoulders casually, then looked at Perseus. As you can see, there's no time to lose. Hurry up, I still want to sleep. Seeing Wyrm yawning and looking down on him, Perseus was a little annoyed. It seems that I have been underestimated. I have to teach you a lesson, my old enemy. Chapter 182. Perseus charged forward with his sword and swung it at Wyrm. Wyrm, on the other hand, did not even look at it. He extended his hand and grabbed it directly. What? No matter what, Perseus was a god and the weapon he used was a god relic. No matter how strong his body was as a god slayer and a god of disobedience, it was illogical for him to grab a white sword with one hand. Alright, it was magical. As expected, my body is strong enough to resist a god relic now that I've become a god slayer. Wyrm smiled as he grabbed Perseus' sword as if he had expected it. As expected of a top dragon snake. It's not unreasonable for him to have such a powerful armor. Perseus immediately let go of the long sword in his hand and leaped backward. At that moment, Athena, who was standing behind Perseus, had already left. Perseus materialized a bow and immediately pulled the bow fully. A seemingly ordinary arrow was shot at Wyrm. Along the way, a powerful force exploded from the arrow. Like a dragon, it charged at Wyrm. Wyrm tossed the long sword in his hand away. The long sword turned into mana and disappeared. Wyrm said to Liliana directly, this isn't something you can get involved in. Step back a little. Although Liliana was a little hesitant, she still listened to Wyrm. Yes, Your Majesty. Please control your power a little and try your best to reduce the damage to Naples. Subsequently, Liliana realized that her words were a little rude to the god slayer who was a king. She immediately knelt on one knee. Please forgive me. Liliana said something that crossed the line. Please punish me, Your Majesty, Liliana said with a blush on her face. Looking at the adorable Liliana, Wyrm could not bring himself to blame her. Subsequently, Wyrm immediately took out the X-silver from the golden ripple. Bang! Wyrm casually waved his hand, and the huge mana arrow was neutralized by X-silver's mana impact. Alright, I'll pardon you. Back off a little and protect yourself first. After saying that, Wyrm ignored Liliana and Wyrm extended his left hand to Perseus. Please, Enkidu. Wyrm once again woke up Enkidu, who had fallen asleep because Wyrm wanted to rest. Yes, leave it to me, Lord Wyrm. A golden chain appeared on Wyrm's left hand. The golden chain slid at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then, it wrapped around Perseus before he could react. Humph. You want to trap my hero Perseus with mere chains? Perseus tried to struggle, but he couldn't break free. Not to mention breaking free, these strange golden chains were getting tighter and tighter. What is this? Is this a weapon against gods? Perseus couldn't help but ask. Wyrm was still in a leisurely mood. He slowly walked up to Perseus and said, This is Enkidu, the heaven lock that is specially used to deal with gods. I think even you should have heard of it. Looking at Wyrm, who was getting closer and closer, Perseus broke out in a cold sweat. Is it a weapon against gods in the Sumer divine system? I don't think this is the authority you obtained from killing gods. I really didn't expect that you, a Celtic god, actually have a treasure from the Sumer divine system. I'm really getting more and more curious about you. Wyrm stopped when he was still some distance away from Perseus. So, are you ready to return to mythology, Perseus? I'm the strongest, and I hold all victory in my hands. No matter if it's a human or a demon, I'm the one who defeats all enemies' hostility. I will defeat any enemy that blocks my way. Giants with unparalleled divine power, please give me your aid. As the words were spoken, the long pointer on the stone plate in Wyrm's inner world suddenly turned and pointed to the 2:00 direction. It was the stone plate that depicted a giant that towered into the sky. Then a huge golden giant phantom appeared and enveloped Wyrm. Thou hast violated the contract and brought evil to the world. Lord's day, sinners will be punished. Shatter their backs, dig out their bones, hair, and brains, and trample on their blood and mud. If I'm the one who can't get close to the darkness, I'll follow the Lord's words and destroy thee. The short pointer on the stone plate pointed to the 5:00 direction. The small stone plate lit up, and the small stone plate that lit up was engraved with a portrait that looked like a black hole that absorbed everything. In an instant, the giant changed color from the original gold to red, and its entire body was surrounded by the aura of annihilation. The land around Wyrm began to disappear bit by bit. As if sensing something, the light behind Perseus shone brightly and illuminated Wyrm. However, this was of no use. The giant moved according to Wyrm's thoughts. It raised its hand and caught the mythical beast that was flying in the sky, Pegasus, and then crushed it. Nay, Pegasus let out a mournful cry and died in the giant's red palm. Even the mana that had disappeared was devoured by the red palm and wiped out completely. Why? That's obviously the power of Welslana. How can it not be sealed? Perseus was shocked. Of course, Wyrm would not tell him that it was a noble relic that was sublimated from the combination of Welslana and Mecker's powers. 12 powers, God's Killer level, EX type, Human Noble Relic distance, 1 maximum catch, 1 There were 12 incarnations of Dragon species, Giant, Warrior, Storm, Annihilation, Flood, Vitality, Dependence, Thunder God, Phoenix, Sun, and Magician. Each incarnation was comparable to a noble relic. It was the upgraded version of the power that came from killing the gods' clones. It had become Wyrm's own thing. I don't have the idea of a villain telling the protagonist about his ability. You can return to the myth in confusion. With that, the giant's shadow held Perseus. Damn it! Ah! Damn God Slayer! Damn snake! Perseus roared and struggled frantically, but he could not break free from the lock of heaven, Enkidu. The one with the power of annihilation. Kill him with one blow, shatter and annihilate him. Chanting again, the red giant burst out a dark red light, and the hand that was holding Perseus clenched hard. At this point, the famous hero in Greek mythology, Perseus, returned to the myth. Wyrm removed the incarnations of Giant and Annihilation and took back the lock of heaven. Little N, are you okay? Wuming asked with concern. It's okay, Master Wuming, because the attack just now was your noble relic. Although it had the power to threaten me, I was not hurt. The golden chain wrapped around Wuming's arm, and there was a cool female voice. I think so too. After all, I now have full control of the power of authority. Suddenly, Wuming found a problem. Why didn't the power increase? It was not that Wuming needed Perseus' power, but the timing was too strange. The God Slayer would definitely gain the power after killing the God of Disobedience. This was the law of Pandora's great curse. Wuming instantly emptied his mind and felt the changes in the surrounding magic. Found it. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.